addressing here on 2nd and goal. Smith comes back into the backfield. They run Bohannon with blockers in front and into the end zone. Gary Bohannon.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Jonathan Garibay. No good. Baylor keeps their Big 12 championship hopes alive with their 10th win of the season here in Waco.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Prescott rolling, going the other way, looking, going to run it in. He's in. Touchdown, Dallas.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Altmaier, batted and intercepted. And it's Wolcott bringing it back. Could he? Wire to wire, Sikkim Bears. How about it?
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Sikkim 365 Radio on this Tuesday, April the 12th. All three of us back in studio today. Paul Catalina back today. Craig Smoak here for now. He'll leave sometime about halfway through the show to go watch Baylor football practice. Jack McKenzie runs the mothership all the way through by himself today. No Emery, no Levi, no Faith. They're all out, and Armstrong Sims remains in Spain for the rest of the week. Last night, WNBA, 3 Baylor players drafted: Alyssa Smith, Queen Egbo by Indiana, Jordan Lewis by Connecticut. That is it, and they now move on to the next level. But let's start today. We're going to drop into Florida State. We'll hear from Baylor linebackers coach Caleb Collins, who Craig featured in Sikkim365.com, the premium section. Mac Rhodes joins us. We'll also drop in with UT, and there's a kind of been a flare-up today about the culture at Texas and what a player said and what Coach Sarkisian said, and yet what he asked the media to find out about the culture. And, of course, it's been all blown up. Plus, we'll have John McClain today. Tomorrow, we'll have coaches from Texas State, UT San Antonio, and we'll have Brigham Young's Kalani Sitake tomorrow or Thursday as well. So, culture. Jack McKenzie runs the mothership. Here is a quote from the young man from Texas, Moro Ojomo. Brian Davis will join us today and kind of let us know a little bit about that. There's always been a lot of discussion about the culture at the University of Texas in football. And we're going to have a quote from Dave Aranda about his thoughts on culture that has nothing to do with this. Question to Ojomo was, basically, you seem to speak with so much wisdom, bigger picture of the team, and you said only a couple of guys would get it. Doesn't the team listen to that, or is it like, oh, that's Mojo or Moro, the kooky old guy just talking about yada, yada, yada? And then he responded. Here's his quote. They're 18 to 22-year-olds, want to chase women, want to chase money, want to chase alcohol. They don't see the future. They're very distracted by what is in front of them. It's such a hard thing, especially guys that haven't been a part of a winning culture. That is why it's very easy for a lot of these powerhouses to keep going, because it's established. The new guys just come in and they're like, oh, this is how we have to do it. Oh, this is what we do. It's so much more difficult. They always talk about coming here and changing stuff. It's like ingrained. You're uprooting what? 10 years of what? Been let go and go by. And the more worried about losing or being on 6th Street, like, again, bailing and making $50 million.
That's balling.
And making $50 million is crazy as hell. I don't know why. This was something that was asked by the media when they had asked Steve Sarkisian about the culture. He then said, why don't you ask the players? Well, he was one of the players made available. That's his quote. I love his quote, not because it puts Texas in a bad light, because to me it's truth serum, that maybe somebody should say that, and yet what's happened. Steve Sarkisian was asked about it, and Craig, what did he say?
Well, I don't have my computer in front of me right now. I don't have the quote in front of me.
Just paraphrase it.
No, I mean, I didn't get to see the full quote. I saw something briefly earlier today, and he was talking about the quote, and he was walking it back a little bit in terms of just kind of curtailing some of what Ojomo was saying. But, like, I don't have it in front of me.
Here's the quote.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
He wasn't too happy, Brian Davis, on his Twitter feed, that Moro Ojomo's too much honesty last week with reporters about player behavior. Sark laughed and said he won't be talking to you guys for a while. Now, there were other quotes from him about the players, and it's not like Ojomo's not a guy that wants to win. He does want to win. He's trying to change things up, and Paul, should it stay in the locker room? And if it should stay in the locker room, which is what also Sarkisian said, that needs to remain in the locker room, didn't he himself then go publicly throw his player under the bus by saying what he said?
Yeah, it's a completely double-edged sword, but, I mean, you want in the media, we want players to be honest. Here was being honest, and here's maybe the first person we've heard that has actually said, yes, the culture here at Texas is bad. Everybody here is entitled, and they're living off something that happened 17 years ago. That is what he's saying. And he said that the reason that the teams like Alabama and win championships all the time is they come in there and it's ingrained. Look, you want to know why Baylor basketball is great all of a sudden? Because the culture changed a little bit. I mean, it was always good with Scott Drew, but it went from it's okay to be this culture to here's the actual goal.
Here's the standard.
Here's the standard. And you see the different, people come in and they kind of smoothly move into the process because it's either get in or get out. And at Texas, they don't have that. And for Steve Sarkisian I know he's trying to skate something pretty thin here, but for him not to acknowledge that he has a job because of that specific statement, that's why Steve Sarkisian's there. If the culture was great at Texas, Mac Brown might still be there. But, Tom Herman might still be there. Charlie Strong would have worked out. But no, Steve Sarkisian has the job at Texas because the culture was bad. So acknowledging it and not maybe throwing your player under the bus isn't the worst thing.
I got to say, guys, I think we got this totally wrong. I don't think he threw him under the bus. I think he just kind of corrected and shed some more light on where he was coming from and also taught him a lesson in the process. I think we are guilty of, and this is everybody, seeing a quote from Texas and going, oh, my God, like they're talking culture. And we don't talk about culture with any other team other than this one team. I mean, we really don't. I mean, we talk about it maybe with Baylor because you talk about the team that you cover, but, like, nobody goes around pointing at, like, Florida State. I mean, somebody, if the topic's Florida State, might bring up, oh, they've had culture issues, but nobody's like, Florida State's got culture. But, like, with Texas, it's like we just jump on them like rabid dogs. Here's what actually was said by Steve Sarkisian. He should not have done that. Okay, here we go. I would like our guys, when they answer questions to y'all, to talk about what they're doing, what's their buy-in, and be careful on speaking on others. It's a little disheartening that one guy makes a statement, and all of a sudden we've got a team full of guys that like to do things outside of the program that we don't adhere to. He said Ojomo's heart was in the right place, but he got caught up in the moment. He should not have done that in public. If you're a family, you don't go out and talk about family business. You take care of things internally. I think his intentions were right, but the delivery and the form that he used was poor. I think that was a great lesson for all of our guys to say, hey, you can get in this moment, you can get here in front of cameras and media, and you can get caught up in answering a question. So that was Steve Sarkisian's response to Ojomo. So he didn't throw him further under the bus. He just kind of taught him a lesson in so many ways and is using it as a lesson to other guys when they get in front of the media to be like, okay, just check yourself a little bit and don't start all of a sudden talking about teammates like they don't have heart and they're too busy on 6th Street and things like that. It's just maybe the delivery was not very good. That's how I'm reading it. Y'all may read it differently, but I don't think he threw him under the bus. I think Ojomo kind of threw some of his teammates under the bus, but in general, I don't think it's like there's a culture issue necessarily at Texas because of these comments. If there's a culture issue at Texas, it's just the same one that's been there the entire time.
That's what I was saying. Yeah. I kind of disagree with you in that. I think he did by saying he's not going to talk to you for a while. It kind of said...
That was a joke.
I
think it was a joke.
You think? I mean, I hope so.
He laughed.
Okay. But, I mean... I mean, he laughed and he might be serious about it. And I think, he was being honest about the way he felt the player was. And maybe he needs to dial it back a bit. But, he's just acknowledging that, stepping into a program that has culture issues. Steve Sarkisian, I think, is a guy who can easily fix that. But, or not easily fix it, but do a better job than anybody else.
Here's another part of Ojomo's quote. I tell them they don't believe me. These young guys, when I told them that I want to win so bad, I'm literally thinking about you all when you don't think I'm thinking about you. When I walk into the tank and Morrow just wants to be alone, but I go sit next to you, it's not because I want to be next to you right now. It's because I want to win, the joy and the sweetness to it. By God's grace, it comes this year. When it happens, we're going to be talking, and I'm just not going to know how to process it. I feel like, because holy moly, you mean to tell me that we're doing this right now? I can't wait for that. It's going to be a great season. So there were other comments made by Moro Ojomo. But you sit there and we talk about the Texas and the culture. Texas themselves have talked about this now for a long, long time, and those who cover the team, and not just us. But in this case, I'm all for Ojomo. The fact that he had the balls to get up there and say what he said, he's frustrated. He's tired of it. He wants to see things fixed. I don't know if he has another year left after this one, so I think it's good that it's out there and they can get to it and maybe talk about it and then move on from this as well.
Yeah, I just think that if he was a Baylor player, I don't think this would have turned into Dave Aranda talking about the culture or whatever. You know what I mean? I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's Texas and it's, just whatever is said is analyzed and overanalyzed and things like that. And I think, because there's some people, I was looking at Twitter, they're treating it like, oh my gosh, Sark's got team issues. And it's like, it's not even close to the truth. It's not even close to is a player just talking S who for some reason talks in the third person, which is just kind of strange, but, who's very confident, obviously, and is pissed off because he's tired of being a laughingstock. I mean, because quite frankly, this version of Texas, yes, they won the Sugar Bowl a couple years back, and there were some things to be excited about, in terms of the future and kind of what they saw last year with Xavier Worthy and a healthy Bijan, and now they got Ewers and this and that. But anybody in that position would be ticked off because even a Sugar Bowl doesn't make up for the fact that, there was years before and even some time in the short amount of time since where it's been disappointing for what the standard is supposed to be at Texas or what we're told it's supposed to be at Texas. So, yeah, it's actually surprising me there haven't been more guys that have, gotten ticked off and let their mouths run in the media. But he just, with Sarkisian, just has to be a little bit more careful about, you're talking about your teammates when you say some of these things, even if it's a well-intended message. The delivery is important and the setting's important, and I think that's just the lesson to be learned, not so much that, oh no, it's Texas being full of themselves again or anything along those lines.
Yeah.
And I do think it's interesting that it does come on the heels of last year. The defensive line coach, the position he plays, is the guy who is on the bus yelling at guys about, the transfer portal is open, get in there. So I would say that if those two guys probably run on the same track and maybe Ojomo thought like, well, I can say it too. But that one was also private on the bus and, the real problem that Texas has with their culture clearly is they don't all completely aren't pulling in the same direction yet.
Well, so that's part of the story, and Brian Davis will join us, Austin American Statesman, at 5:15, and discuss it as well. From Lee Buttercup, whatever is causing the culture problem, there's no question it does exist. No other way. They lack hardware across multiple sports with all the 5 stars they get every year. Austin also offers many distractions. And so there's a few of you who do believe, and I don't think there's any question, there's something's been missing. But again, they're not the only big boy school that has a great tradition that has not been good for nearly a decade or 10 or 20 years. There's a lot of teams that used to run college football that are like that right now and trying to get it back. And things change, and some schools are better than what they used to be as well. Gilbert Gottfried from Mike Gaines, wanted to throw that out there. Another big name in Hollywood entertainment business passed away.
We've lost in less than a year, going back to last year, we've lost Betty White, Ed Asner, Louis Anderson, Norm Macdonald, Bob Saget, and now Gilbert Gottfried. That's 6 pretty big, funny people. And Ed Asner did a lot of dramatic stuff too, but like all legends in the comedy world.
Just wanted to throw that out there, Mike. Thank you for that. Also, Darius Williams. Good afternoon, everyone.
Problem is Ed Asner and Betty White, you can at least understand at their ages, not the other ones, though. Yeah. Those are all too young to be passing away. And Bob Saget especially, just so entirely out of the blue, such a weird situation. But yeah, Gilbert Gottfried, I mean, I can hear that voice. Who can't in their heads right now? That shrill, shrieking voice of his. But that was how you knew who it was. It wasn't a question of who that was when you heard that voice. That was Gilbert freaking Gottfried. And he was great in a lot of different things over the years, and rest in peace.
We'll have Matt Marshall. He covers Florida State for the Orlando Sentinel. He'll join us today at 3:45. Caleb Collins, linebackers coach from Baylor. We'll get Craig's thoughts. He wrote an article about it, Sikkim365.com in the premium section. Mac Rhodes will also join us as well. Now, I'm going to get to that Dave Aranda quote at some point, Jack, but I want to go to this first. This is from Max Olson. Every single time it seemed like I open up Twitter, and I'm not saying every single time because I'm on it a lot or I have it up, but about 3 times a day, I open up Twitter, and whether it's Jeff Goodman or somebody who covers college basketball or Max Olson or somebody who covers college football, there's another transfer. And we had a big discussion about this yesterday, and Phil Bennett, among others, we discussed it with him as well. Max Olson, this was yesterday at 5:12 p.m. Kansas State linebacker Brandon Jennings is back in the transfer portal. Jennings transferred to Kansas State from Maryland earlier this offseason, and now he's back in the transfer portal. I know that everyone has a right to pretty much do everything but commit crimes, right?
Well, in some cases, that's actually been allowed as well.
Depends on
what the hell. What's going on? I know we could discuss this. This could the same conversation 3 weeks ago, but this just caught me. This is probably old man, get off my lawn. I get it.
I don't think it's old man, get off my lawn as much as it's just one of those things that I think has come with like the modern world of this is the same kind of thing we have in recruiting where, a guy can commit to 7 schools before he actually signs. It's part of it is.
Let me put up my list of 25 finalists to soak up all these Twitter likes.
So if you're going to do that, and I don't know if Brandon Jennings is this kind of guy, but it does. I mean, he has made a decision and then made another decision. It seems to me he didn't think it all the way through when he made that decision. So to go to Kansas State.
Which one?
Well, at least to go to Kansas
Maryland
State.
Or go to Kansas State?
To leave Maryland. I mean, to go to Kansas State, if he doesn't like it that much, if he was already there, then he didn't look enough. He didn't go deep enough. And, it's not just it's your college choice. It's where you're going to be spending class time and all this other stuff. You better make sure you like it.
Nobody's afforded more opportunities to check out their campuses than football players. Yeah. So I don't buy the whole didn't know what he was walking into. Like if you did, we know guys on Baylor's roster who came sight unseen and look, that's a gamble. But I don't think it's an old man yelling at clouds thing to kind of scoff at this. You're talking about a kid or a young man, I should say, who lasted 4 months. 4 months. I mean, this isn't him arriving as a freshman and then you getting homesick and he's like, I don't think this is for me. No, this is a guy who basically Maryland wanted gone because he was a diva, according to what I was reading, or at least there were some issues there. And diva was a word thrown around apparently by the Maryland staff. So there's that to begin with. But then, you go and, you get a second shot. You get your second shot. You get your second chance to go figure out where you want to play. And it lasts 4 months. So this isn't to me the system, or this isn't to me like the schools or whatever. This is a young man who needs to figure out what he actually wants to do. All this stuff we talk about with young people, and I'm not trying to be old man either, but it's always you don't understand. It's different than when you were growing up, and it's this and it's that and it's this and it's that. But at some point you got to say I don't care if he's 20 or if he's 22 or whatever. I was old enough then to know that I'm acting like a clown if I'm transferring that often, that quickly. That's on me. That's not the transfer portal. That's not playing time. That's not the coaches. That's you, young man. So figure it out.
And here's the thing. If you're a diva, Kansas State's not the place for you.
Well, because diva Maryland.
Diva Maryland, too. Look, I'm telling you, if you're a diva, and the coaches think they can coach things out of people. I'm sure Chris Kleiman and his staff thought, we can we can coach this thing out of him.
He's a
talented
really good
enough.
player as a freshman. Like, he was good before he got into whatever he was getting into, with the Maryland staff, and then that's what led to this. And then I don't know what happened to K-State. But
I think it's clear. Like, okay, he got into a little bit of spring football here, and Chris Klieman's a very kind of baseline coach. I mean, like,
why don't we sit there and try to look at the solution here? The solution is not everything is free.
Exactly.
You have to, if you're going to open up this transfer portal that initially kind of seemed like a pretty good idea, and now it is so free agency, so wide open, you could transfer. Where's he going to end up? Somewhere else this summer? And then what about October? He's going to go somewhere else? Why don't they put a pitch count on this?
Well, that's when the person who just doesn't want any rules for anything says, well, why? And then you can ask why for forever. That's the great thing about asking why, is you just keep asking it because it's never ending. But yeah, like, I'm all for freedom to move around and things like that. I think it's just different fans. I think there's some college football fans that want it to be the NFL with no rules, and I think there's some fans that want it to be more like the college football they knew, and they know it can't be exactly like that. So the NIL thing was kind of a weird pill to swallow, but hey, it got down, and it turns out like the world didn't end. Everything's fine, and it's pretty much still, to an extent, college football, but it has turned into the nightmare that people thought it would be, with basically just going and buying players rather than doing it in the cover of darkness under the table, just doing it right out wide in the open and calling it a charity or whatever the case may be. So, there's people, why not? Why can't he? Why can't he bounce around? Well, I guess in theory he can, but, at some point I would hope that somebody in that young man's life, or somebody with just half a brain who actually cares about him rather than just asking why on Twitter, would say, yeah, you know what, maybe that's on him. Maybe he's the one that needs to sit down and figure it out and maybe mature a little bit. I don't know. I don't know him, but I know that it's never commonplace for somebody to transfer twice in a 4-month period. Like, that's red flags to me.
Well, Baylor had a guard in James Akinjo who was at Georgetown, then he was at Arizona, and then at Baylor. He always played well, but there was issues at Georgetown, and then at Arizona there was the coaching change. So there are some things that can – but that's a red flag to me. And he was a phenomenal player, All-American player, and I don't know where they would have been without him. But I always thought that the transfer portal would have some sort of, if you want to use the term, pitch count. That if you transfer once, that's fine. You get a free pass. You transfer twice, that's fine, but you have to sit out a year.
I agree. I was going to say the same thing. They used to be, they had that rule just in general. You did it once and you were sitting out a year, and I didn't necessarily agree with that because that does seem kind of harsh, but I'm with you. If you transfer twice in 4 months, you dock a year. I mean, there has to be some kind of culpability. I mean, there has to be some kind of not like it doesn't have to be viewed as a negative, but it just has a barrier to kind of keep the chaos from just completely enveloping everything.
But I think stop for a second before they transfer in the first place.
So.
And I think that's the rule. Yeah. I mean, the rule is one-time transfer, and then you have to sit out.
Yeah,
but he could also fall into several different categories, and then that rule is moot. So we don't know. Like, we don't know what legal mumbo jumbo that Brandon Jennings could, or what rule he could fall into. He's probably going to have to sit out a year, but. Yeah. He could say, like, well, I have this going on and I have to leave, and then then he's going to get to go play wherever he wants.
Well, I don't know how. I'm just curious because of course there's a one-time transfer rule, but if you were on campus for 4 months, like I guess that's a full transfer. Yeah, so I guess he's docked no matter what.
I mean, he took classes.
Yeah, that's the way it should. And I agree with that. That's the way that it should be. We don't need to see him probably playing for at least, or we won't see him play for at least a year. And I don't know where he ends up. And again, I don't want to act like I'm harping on him. It's just kind of like a symptom of the overall larger problem. And that's why, it's an interesting story. But I mean, good luck to him. I hope he figures out whatever is causing him to not be able to find, where he wants to put his head at night. But it's kind of wild, this whole recruiting thing.
It's not so much about him. It's about the story, and it's about how he's not the only one. And what is the solution? And I do believe that they have to come up with something. But with the NCAA being so screwed up, this is on the conferences to come up with something, I guess, in what they can. Remember the SEC, you could not transfer from one school within the conference to the other. Well, that's now a green light. Speaking of which, Alabama added Tyler Steen, Vanderbilt offensive tackle. Bama lost both their tackles to the NFL. They do have a couple of young men, Kendall Randolph and Amari Kite, who are practicing during spring at that position. Steen was a starter at Vanderbilt. Baylor got a Vanderbilt transfer, right? He's a starter on the offensive line. And so it has from St. Aquinas of Florida, by the way, St. Thomas Aquinas in Fort Lauderdale, where, of course, they basically have nothing but great talent that comes out of that area.
For a while there, Alabama was forbidden from coming on their campus because they fired Shula.
Oh.
And all the Shulas go there, and they fired one of the Shula, David Shula, I think. And the St. Thomas Aquinas was like, no, we're not going to talk to you, Dennis Francione, and all this stuff. And then Nick Saban comes along and like, oh, well, I mean, there's so many Shulas. Who knows? Who can keep track?
A couple of basketball notes. Mike Miles, who had a really nice run at TCU, said he's coming back for another year. And then across town, Kendrick Davis, the American Conference Player of the Year, from SMU, entered the transfer portal. And you don't know, is he going to stay close? Is he going to move somewhere else? What's he going to do? But those are a couple of names in the state of Texas, in the Dallas and Fort Worth area. Miles coming back, Kendrick Davis saying that he's going to look at some other options.
I would be willing to bet you that
he's from Houston.
That Buzz Williams goes all in
on
at
Kendrick
Texas
Davis.
A&M on that, yeah.
Also, Luka Doncic, we mentioned that yesterday. They came back. The MRI does confirm a left calf strain. The question now, and of course, as a little NBA note, the playoffs, of course, starting tonight, the play-in games, whatever. What else can happen there? Let the team doctors make their decisions. Let them give them the options of Luka. The Mavericks, without him, of course, are a completely different team, like any star player off a team in the NBA. But they've had a really good run with 50-plus wins as well. So again, to start off the show, congratulations to Melissa Smith and Queen Egbo, to Indiana, and also Jordan Lewis now playing for Connecticut, the WNBA. You were going to say something else?
Yeah, back to Kendrick Davis. He'll be going to his fourth school, wherever he lands. So, James Akinjo-ish in a way.
There you go.
He's been at SMU and TCU and Sam Houston State. So now let's see where he goes.
And you wonder if he goes back to TCU because of what they built towards the end of the year and the run they made in the NCAA tournament. Matt Marshall will join us, Orlando Sentinel, at 3:45. We'll break here, come back with more. Caleb Collins from yesterday, linebackers coach. Craig wrote a feature on him. Mac Rhodes at 4:20. Also, we'll have Craig live from practice right outside of finishing up watching part of practice in the late 4 o'clock hour. Brian Davis on UT, John McClain, Hall of Fame NFL writer, Paul's top 25. We've increased it, Paul, while you were gone. Paul's top 5 as well to close out the show. All right, Jack McKenzie by himself with us today. This is Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
At Allen Samuels, the new 2022 Wagoneer Series 2 and 3 has 2.9% for 72 months, plus $3,000 in bonus cash. All first responders get an extra $500 or take 0% for 72 months. Shop this incredible vehicle that gives you performance, style, perfect for your family, and reliability your family deserves. Today from Allen Samuels in Waco. Come shop their huge new car and truck inventory.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
All right, Craig Smoak will be with us for about another 40 minutes, 45 minutes. Mac Rhodes at 4:20. We'll check in with FSU, Florida State. And Bobby Estrada, Hypnotic Anonymous, couple of FSU Seminole fans. If you don't know, Paul Catalina is an FSU alum. So we'll have, again, Matt Marshall from Orlando Sentinel today at 3:45. Craig's got an updated quote, at least to kind of paraphrase part of Sarkisian when we discussed his story, and then we'll have one from Dave Aranda as well.
I have a feeling my first question to Matt Marshall will be the same one you wanted to ask Mitch Sherman is, tell me everything's fixed.
Yeah.
It's not going to be. But go ahead, Craig.
First of all, Kendrick Davis, he went to Sam Houston High School. That was my bad. So he's only going to his 3rd college with whatever this next choice is. So not 4, but 3. But, yeah, I read Sam Houston wrong, so I wanted to correct that. But, yeah, the Sarkisian thing, there were I sent some audio to try and get a better picture. I think it is fair to say that he was not pleased with Moro Jomo's comments. I think it'd be too far to say that Texas has like a culture issue because of those comments. I think it's just reinforcing, already previously held beliefs, but I don't think it's quite the drama that that it was made out to be. When those comments first hit, but I do think that Moro Jomo's probably not going to be talking for a while. I do think there is some truth to that, and I do think Sarkisian explained it really well, and here's him really explaining his thoughts on Moro Jomo and those comments.
I thought the form was really poor. He should not have done that in public. A player-led team, a really good player-led team, those issues, and if you have issues with anything, get taken care of in the locker room. Get taken care of in the meeting room. If you're really a family, you don't go out and talk about family business. You take care of things internally. So that's the first part. But that's part of us educating these guys on what that looks like and how to do it. I think his intentions were right, but the delivery and the form that it was used was poor. Sure. In the end, you have to make sure to mow your own lawn first, and you got to make sure your own house is in order first before you start to discuss what somebody else is doing or how they're doing it. And I think that was a great lesson for all of our guys to say, hey, you can get in this moment, and you can get here in front of cameras and media, and you can get caught up in answering a question. You got to understand the forum that you're in. And, we like to handle any issues that we have internally, and that's truly being player-led, is that when you can approach somebody at their locker, when you can approach somebody at lunch, and making sure your house is in order, that your lawn is mowed properly, then you can start to motivate the next player about what he needs to do to raise his level and raise his play.
Let me ask you a question.
And
Is
then
he also?
and then he asked him, so will he be talking to the media? And that's when he had that response.
All right, but if he's saying you have to mow your own lawn, is he also then saying that Ojomo has not mown his own lawn?
I guess in some ways,
Maybe
yeah.
he has to take
I mean,
care
he's
of-
not a perfect player,
No.
so yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not like Heisman Trophy candidate or anything like that. I mean, he's a player with a lot of promise and somebody that they, can be excited about and everything. But I mean, is he a polished, completely perfect player that has no flaws that can just go talk about the rest of the team as though they do and he doesn't? No, absolutely not. So I understand completely where he's coming from. I think it is a good lesson learned. I think it'll be taken care of. And I do think that there are things culturally that Texas is fighting a lengthy battle and trying to root out. But I think this is actually a good thing. I think it's a good thing and not a bad thing the way it's probably being perceived by those who just want to point and laugh at Texas and the culture and all that. I think this is a moment that maybe previous coaches wouldn't have handled very well, but that Sarkisian, who I do like, I think he's going to teach a very valuable lesson, and Moro Jomo will be better, and I think other players will be better for it as well.
And I think that I have no problem with Ojomo, what he said, and I think that what he said, whether he should have or not, may end up, as you said, helping them a little bit. I kind of like the fact that he was being honest, at least from his perspective. Now, back to Brandon Jennings at K-State. I talked to Tim Fitzgerald just a minute ago, direct message, about the young man who was at Maryland, then at Kansas State, now 4 months later, moving on. I said, was he on campus, just to make sure?
Yeah.
And he said yes. When we spoke to him, Brandon Jennings, he had zero interest in anything team or school related. This is from Tim Fitzgerald, PowerCat.com. Was all about him, great athlete, but he didn't fit with Kleiman at all.
No, I just said that on the surface.
Yeah.
We've
But
met
that's
Chris.
from somebody there who's in the backyard. Yeah,
We've met Chris Kleiman a couple times, and if you're a diva transfer, I can almost promise you you're a rock in his shoe right away, and it's not the place for you. There's not a lot of places that will put up with divas unless they're desperate. Maryland, I guess, wasn't even one of them. And what have they done in the last 20 years?
Yeah.
They beat Texas back-to-back years. It's about their biggest highlight, isn't it, in recent years?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, Maryland, there was reportedly, thoughts that he was a diva. So Kansas State found that out as well. And, I would love to see that media session. I'm sure it's pretty cringe the way it sounds, but probably also, just humorous knowing the outcome if it was all about him and nothing about the team or anything like that. Yeah, that's definitely not the attitude to come in with, and especially not in a program like that with Kleiman leading it. Yeah, that's just not going to work. That's oil and water all day.
By the way, we do, again, appreciate as we grow this show as much. We're now at 17,000 or so plus subscribers on our YouTube channel that less than a year ago was at 2,600, and then the Texas-Oklahoma SEC story popped and adding on more. We are going to bounce all around the country, not only today, but also throughout the rest of the week. And it's great to see a couple of the Florida State fans jump in with us because we're going to have Matt Merschel join us in the next segment as well. Now, here's Dave Aranda. This has nothing to do, and this is not trying to say, oh, they got their order, they got their problem. But this is Dave Aranda. Colt Barber put this up. Speaking about culture, within talent acquisition, I can't. Those wires get in the way for me every single time when I go to read something on the screen. I'm going to have to go back. Craig, can you see it? Okay.
Not really.
Okay. Hold on just a second. Just 1 second. I'm gonna go to the full screen that we have.
You understood we got a screen, but it's completely covered by wires.
But here we go. Within talent acquisition, it's more of who the person is and what are their beliefs on what this is all about and why they're here. What's their way? What's their why? Kind of get ingrained so that they can be them, but then align with us and move with us. I think every interaction, every negative thing that comes up, or any positive thing that comes up, how that's handled. I think it's way important because, and he says that a lot, way important because you're showing who you are and those things. It's a time of talent acquisition for sure, but also a time of building a culture. I think those two things are tied at the hip. And that's Dave Aranda from a quote with us on Sikkim 365 earlier this spring.
Yeah, I think that, if you can have that, most coaches do have similar outlooks. I don't think people go probably as deep as Dave Aranda does. And he's kind of even beyond the Phil Jackson, Ted Lasso thing of here's a children's book about you, kind of a thing that he does, which is he's just such a brilliant guy. But that's kind of the new way you have to look at things, because so many times you can break a culture by going, we can fix this guy. And look, Baylor experienced that before. Look, 2016 happened because there were too many chances taken on guys they thought that, all they need to do is focus on sports. And they didn't fix the person underneath, and they got burned because of it. Or they just, you can't fix anybody who doesn't want to be fixed. So all of that being said, it's about finding who really fits you and not just going, well, this guy's really fast. Let's bring him here.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And again, they've been able to win with 3 different coaches in the last decade, with the Art Briles and then with Matt Rule, and now also with Dave Aranda as well. All right, it's 3:40. When we come back, Matt Merschel, he covers Florida State for the Orlando Sentinel. They just wrapped up their spring game. We'll answer some of the questions that some of you have on the chat room, Bobby, and also Hypnotic. All of that and more, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Marco's Pizza with now 4 locations in the Waco area, but there are over 1,000 Marco's Pizzas around the country. And again, pizza lovers get it. It's a blend of 3 cheese topping. They have specials all over the place. I'm going to give you some of them right now that's online for you if you're interested in ordering a pizza or going to pick it up yourself, building your own pizza, or maybe having one delivered like we might at some point this week as well. The all meat with all of what you expect: pepperoni, ham, Italian sausage, bacon, original sauce, signature, that 3-cheese blend. Also, you can build your own pizza and do whatever you want with it, but there are some specials as well, including Pepperoni Magnifico, one we've tried and we love it. Pepperoni Magnifico, again, large for $9.99. Use the code PEPMAG. Order now online, and you could also call in that order as well. Unlimited large 2-topping pizzas, $8.99 each. $3 off large specialty pizza. Order now and use special 3 as the code. Unlimited 1-topping medium pizzas for $7.99 each. And also, you can download the app if you haven't and get 25% off your first menu price order. They can deliver, you can pick it up, and of course, you can order online as well. Marco's Pizza, locations in Waco right now: Woodway, China Spring, Belmead and Robinson, and the new store being built and almost about to open in Hewitt as well. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online, pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T is board-certified physician consultations, will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
We continue our tour around the country, throughout the country, when it comes to college football spring drills, wrapping up games being played as well. Florida State is one of them. Matt Marshall, Orlando Sentinel, joins us as Florida State had their spring game this past weekend. Matt, thanks for your time. David Smoak, Paul Catalina, an FSU alum, and Craig Smoak as well. We have Bobby and a couple of others on our chat room that are excited about the fact we're going to answer some questions, at least if we try. Matt, where is Florida State year two?
I think right now they're taking that next step. I think when you think about when Mike Norvell arrived at Florida State, he had a lot of work to do. He had to go in and basically rebuild a roster that was, sadly neglected over the last couple of years. He had to add some players, whether it's through the high school recruiting ranks or going out and adding transfers. And I think it didn't help that obviously the pandemic hit in 2020, and he was kind of behind the eight ball like a lot of coaches were, and he didn't have an opportunity to have a spring practice. The team struggled. And you saw that on the field that first year. That second year, last year, I think things were a little bit better. You added some pieces through the transfer portal. You started to see a little bit of what they're trying to do. They started out bad 0-4, but kind of rallied back for a period, winning 5 of the last 8 games. This spring, though, this is a different team. This team, he's got close to 95% of his roster on campus during spring camp. They've been through the off-season workouts. This team now is almost fully, full roster right now, and he feels like this is a good opportunity for this team to take that next step. And expectations are going to be high. There are a lot of people who want to see this team not only just get to be bowl eligible, but maybe get to 8 or 9 wins this season.
How is the offensive line progressing? Because, look, the transfers they brought in, for the most part, all seem to be hits so far. I'll ask you about Jared Verse and Trey Benson in a second, but the offensive line has been the point of concern going back into Jimbo Fisher's last few seasons.
Yeah, very much so. It was one of the worst offensive lines, in the ACC, and it was, really bad. And that was one of the things that I think people don't understand, that Mike Norvell had to go out and kind of rebuild this line piece by piece, and he did it through some of the players who were there, went out and recruited some kids, and then he brought in some transfers. Last year he brought in Dylan Gibbons, and that was a huge addition. He was able to show up the guard spot. They got a couple other players this year. Bless Harris comes over from Lamar. He was transferred from Lamar University. Caden Lyles, who's a transfer from Wisconsin. I think Caden's probably going to fit in that center spot. He's going to fit in really nicely right there as well. And then they also developed some guys. Darius Washington is a guy who's played all 5 positions on the offensive line. He even played center last year for a couple snaps. They love him. They think he's going to be obviously a versatile tool for them. Maurice Smith has stepped in and done some things for them. And they've got a lot of young, sophomores and freshmen, redshirt sophomores and freshmen, who they feel like have had a couple opportunities here or there, but they're going to work their way up and actually start fitting in well. So if they can start to develop, that 1 and 2 group and then focus on, maybe group 3, then I think they'll be able to continue to move forward. It's going to be important for them because they need to protect the quarterback, and they also need to establish those running lanes.
Matt, speaking of that quarterback, I mean, how has Jordan Travis looked? And I guess elsewhere in that group, I saw some positive things the other day about Tate Rodemaker. I mean, how's that kind of shaping up depth-wise behind Travis?
Yeah, I think it's good. I wouldn't be shocked if Mike Norvell, and he hasn't mentioned this, but I wouldn't be shocked to see him maybe look at getting a transfer quarterback in. Not to replace, not to go for that number one spot, but maybe add a little bit of depth to that spot. They've only got 4 quarterbacks on the roster right now. Jordan Travis is going to be their starter. He was the guy for the first time in a while. He had a competition last year with Mackenzie Milton, but now he comes in there as a full starter. He's looked good. He's trying to take that leadership role that they really want him to do. He's taking ownership of that offense. He's obviously dynamic with the arm and the leg. Their concern really kind of is where's that number 2, number 3 spot going to be. Tate Rodemaker, who's a redshirt sophomore, who's been there for the last couple of years, he's starting to show some growth. They like what he can do. He's a tall guy. Guy's got a good arm. And they really like this new freshman, A.J. Duffy, who came in. A.J. Duffy's much like Jordan Travis, is a dual-threat guy, strong arm, good legs. He comes from a coaching background. His dad is a well-known high school coach out in California. So he's got some of that mental things that I think they're looking for in a quarterback. So they've got pieces right now, but I wouldn't be shocked maybe at some point they don't add maybe another, just to maybe bring in a little bit of depth. They got Geno English as well, who's been on the team, special teams for the last couple of years. A scout team for the last couple of years. So, this is a good quarterback room. It's got a lot of experience and has been through a lot.
Matt, Florida State has a rich tradition. We know what they did under Bobby Bowden. We know what they did even under Jimbo Fisher, although at the end that started to, of course, kind of fall apart. Have they forgotten how to win? Is it that as well, or is it a talent issue?
I think it's a little bit of a talent issue. I don't think they forgot to win. I just think people don't, outside of Tallahassee, people don't quite understand. When Jimbo left that program, there was a lot of bad blood between Jimbo and the school. And he, when he left, he kind of left things in disarray, and it really was a situation where this roster was nowhere near what it should have been. They didn't work hard at recruiting towards his last year, so there wasn't a lot of pieces left for them. And then they brought in Willie Taggart, and I don't think Willie Taggart, as good as a recruiter as Willie was, I don't think he necessarily understood exactly what was needed there, and they weren't able to get some of the guys that they're used to getting. I think you're also seeing success around the state of Florida, other programs at Florida. You saw it at UCF in Orlando, even though they're not a Power 5 school. They started to grow a little bit and started hitting some of those guys. Miami starting to grow a little bit. So the guys that normally would go to Florida State just haven't gone there. So now they're really starting to recruit harder. They're starting to build that program up. The next big step for them is they got to continue to upgrade facilities, and they got to find ways to win some games, big games, that can maybe convince some of these kids who are on the fence about going to a Florida or maybe a Miami to go to Florida State instead.
So the big news out of the spring game was that the transfers played pretty well. Trey Benson was the leading rusher. He came in from Oregon. Jared Verse from Albany was a kid who I encourage people, if they're fans of anyone, to read about. Very interesting story. And he was such a raw talent at Albany. Essentially, the coaches at Albany were like, yeah, we can't keep you here anymore. You need to go play somewhere else. And he also played really well. What can you tell us about the transfers, especially Jared Verse, who has everyone excited?
Yeah, Jared, and he got people even more excited after watching the spring game. He had 2 sacks and he blocked a field goal in the first half. He looked everything the bit as he's been kind of advertised. And the one thing that Mike Norvell has talked about with Jared is he's still a young guy. He's a redshirt sophomore. People forget when Jermaine Johnson and Keir Thomas got here last year on the edge, they were both experienced players. They were seniors going in, redshirt seniors going into last year. So they had experience going in. Verse has so much talent that it's just raw. And I think what they're trying to do right now is kind of get him to kind of mold that talent a little bit. They feel like he's going to be great. He's going to take over one of those spots vacated by Johnson and Thomas. Their next big question is, finding someone else on the other edge to kind of bookend him. The other transfers, as you mentioned, Trey Benson, another great story. Kid came from Oregon. He had a knee injury that cost him all of the 2020 season. He really wanted to come back closer to home. He looked good in that spring game. They were kind of holding him back a little bit because they're trying to get him to rehab, but he looked explosive in the spring game, had some big runs, a 22-yarder that I think got fans kind of oohing and on in the stadium. So he's a guy they feel like can kind of really work well into that running backs room. Another guy is Micah Pittman, who's another Oregon transfer, came in, guy who's raw, physical guy, whose dad, Michael Pittman, used to play at, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Micah looks just as much like his dad. And he's a guy I think they feel like can step in not only as a wide receiver, they feel like they can use him in different spots, maybe, use him a little bit in the backfield and also use him on special teams in the return game. So a lot of these transfers, we got a chance to kind of get the first look at them and get fans really excited about them.
What are the expectations for Winston Wright? I know that he's hurt right now, the car accident, but how do you see him fitting into the puzzle once he's healthy and available?
Yeah, I think he could be a huge part of it. One of the things they talk about with him is, he's got a little experience, obviously playing at West Virginia. They need that. They need somebody to step in and be a playmaker. I think they like the idea, too, also that he played a little bit on special teams as a return game. They really are looking for some kind of explosive return game. They just haven't had that under Mike Norvell. They'd love to get someone able to do that. I think you're right. He had that horrific car, accident over spring break. He's been back. They said that, he's trying to get himself back in physical shape. They feel like he's going to be back at some point. He's going to be huge. He's one of those 4 transfer receivers they brought in. He's got that experience. Him and Micah Pittman, I think, are be good. One of the ones, the guy they're going to see is Johnny Wilson, another kid transferred in from Arizona State. Mm-hmm. He's tall, 6'7", guy who got the length that can really reach out. And I saw him in a couple practices, make some great plays. So they feel like these guys are going to be able to step in and be those playmakers on the outside that they really haven't had over the last couple of years.
Matt, where in the heck would Florida State be without a transfer portal?
Oh,
I mean, isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing?
It's amazing, but I will say this. I think Mike Norvell's done a great job about this. He's not throwing all his eggs in one basket when it comes to the transfer portal. I think he understands, I'm going to have to build my roster for the first couple of years with the portal, and I'm going to go out and hit recruiting. Last year they had a decent recruiting class. This next class, 2023, is strong. If he can continue to if they finish strong, I think he can add some pieces through that way. He knows he can't do it one way or the other. He's got to do both. And I think he's done a great job of filling some of these holes.
What have you seen changed with Michael Alford taking over at AD and kind of the full steam ahead they have it? This is the first time Florida State's kind of had a real AD, and not to knock David Coburn, not he wasn't a real AD, he was doing the job, but he was not brought in to be an AD for as long as he was, and then he was. And now Michael Alford is there. What have you seen change there?
Well, I just think there's just a commitment to resources. When I spoke to Michael Alford about a month or so after he got in the job, they talked about already, they were upgrading the locker rooms for the football staff. They went in and redid the locker rooms, which is solely needed to be done. And you saw the players' reactions when they walk in. Those videos where they're oohing and ahhing, because they love the new locker rooms. That's huge for boosting morale and everything. They've been doing other projects across the campus where, they're trying to upgrade baseball facilities, softball, soccer. So he understands athletics, they've got to do that. The one biggest project he has is they're trying to still build this football only facility that they've been working on. And they feel like they're going to break ground in about 10 months or so. They've been trying to raise money for it. ADs, it used to be their job was scheduling and figuring out all that. Now it becomes you're becoming that money guy. You're really out there trying to get the boosters to give money. You're trying to find ways to make sure everything works out well. If they can get that facility, if they can continue down that stretch, I think they're going to find a way maybe to eventually camp up. They have to, because they can't fall any farther behind schools like Clemson and North Carolina.
Matt, I want to go back to, you mentioned UCF earlier, and I was just curious. We've heard reaction from all over the country when all the realignment and stuff was going on, but because there has been, this situation where a lot of the big brands were down and a school like UCF was able to thrive, what are the thoughts around that area about them going to the Big 12?
Oh, it's excitement. I mean, so much excitement. This is something that, fans from UCF fans and people alike on the program have been really eager for. They wanted to get to the Big 12. When that realignment happened in 2013, they felt like they had a good chance. They put together a proposal. They put it in. They wanted to get that opportunity. It didn't happen then. So this next time comes around, they felt like, listen, we've done so much since then. Look at that 2017-2018 season, the football-wise. They've had success there. Their national brand has grown so much. They add a guy like Gus Malzahn, who's an experienced coach, who's done a good job there as well. You look at the other sports, basketball's done well. Women's basketball, a couple NCAA appearances. Men's basketball's done decent. Baseball's doing good. So they feel like they're in a good spot. They spent some money to upgrade facilities, but they know now that they're getting into the Big 12, that's going to be a huge injection of revenue that's going to help them out even more. They got so many projects. I think Terry Mahaja, UCF athletic director, has got all these projects lined up. They want to expand the stadium. They want to do some other things like that. They feel like these are things that are going to help them continue to not only grow, but also thrive in the Big 12. They don't just want to be in the Big 12. They want to thrive in it. So I think that's something they're working towards right now.
Matt, we appreciate it. It's interesting. Florida State's trying to rebound. Miami's trying to rebound. Florida's trying to get their mojo back. And then, again, UCF is in a position where they're going to join the Big 12 here pretty soon.
And look at the hires two of them made. I mean, everybody's all in. I mean, they're all going for it, aren't they?
Yeah, and they need to because, the state, which has been such a power for so long, has kind of fallen back, the last couple of years. And now you add all this excitement for all the teams. I think it could be a good, strong run. I think it's going to be interesting to see how it pays off, especially on the recruiting trail.
Hey, look, FSU, Florida, 11 a.m. Never used to happen. Never, ever, ever. Now it's like, it's got to be 11 a.m. Please put that thing at 11.
Was Miami and Florida State 11 a.m. sometimes, or was that always at 2:30?
Sometimes that was. Yeah. But...
Are you happy now?
I am. I'm thrilled.
Bobby Estrada, are you happy? Again, Hypnotic Anonymous on the chat room. Hope you guys got a little bit. The tight end position is something they're chatting about quite a bit because Norvell uses the tight end position quite a bit as well. Matt, thank you. Appreciate your time. We hope to have you again.
No problem. Anytime. I appreciate it.
That's Matt Marshall, again, with the Orlando Sentinel, Sikkim 365 Radio at 365 Sports.
And I know it was a Florida State segment, but once he brought up UCF and just kind of the environment, I had to ask, more of that regionally, how they've sort of reacted. And, yeah, I'm sure it perked up a few eyebrows of just like, wait a second, you're not supposed to be going up here.
The thing that the other schools could rely on is like, well, yeah, if you want to go play for the American Conference title, go knock yourself out. You have to have a miracle. And like Cincinnati needed a miracle to get in this year and do everything perfect. Now, especially in Florida, UCF can look, we can win possibly a conference that's more balanced than the one that Florida's in for sure. And, easier maybe even at times in the ACC. But, Miami and Florida State, if they got good again, it could probably run the league.
All right. Thanks to Matt Marshall, his time with the Orlando Sentinel. Coming up next, yesterday at linebackers coach Caleb Collins, who was, remember, promoted in November to replace Joey McGuire, who went to Texas Tech and has done a great job. Heard a lot of great things about him. He spoke. Craig has an article about that in the Sikkim365.com premium section. By the way, from Jerry Chatham, and I think I tend to agree with you, Smokey and everyone, read in the paper that Elm Avenue won't be completed until 2023.
Are you
think
serious?
you can move the camera from some different views, that camera on top of the building? Yeah.
Is that for real?
That's what Jerry just said in the chat room, and all of us want to beat our heads against the door.
This 2-month project or whatever they said, it was a 3-month project, and I don't understand how it could possibly take that long.
Excuse me.
It's freaking April.
Jack, do we have a picture of the outside so we can explain to everybody what we're talking about? Is that even available?
At least they're starting to pave a little bit.
Now, they've done a lot to the side of us, but there's
no hole in the ground anymore.
No, there's not. Okay, that almost looks like just some random shot, but that's right outside our door.
That is garbage for the businesses around here.
That's what Jerry said he read in the paper.
But I also read in the paper about 3 months ago when this project was starting how much it was impacting the businesses around here because you can't get to them. And so to get to some of them, to get some barbecue, you have to follow traffic signs for 4 blocks and go in circles to get to some random entrance that is open and not blocked off by an orange sign. So I just hate that for the businesses. But
on Elm Avenue, the journey is not as important as the destination.
Yeah.
Or the destination is not as important as the journey. I'm sorry.
Oh, well.
It could be worse. But it does. Thanks a lot, Jerry, for that, and we appreciate that. Jack, again, running the mothership full time today. And Bobby and Hypnotic Anonymous, again, thank you guys for joining us for the segment for Florida State. Coming up next, what did Caleb Collins have to say yesterday after practice? Linebackers coach, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Pioneer, Steel, and Pipe. Braden Embry is the one that is my contact there, but they have all sorts of great people that work in that company. Braden and that company, all the generations since 1943 that have kept Pioneer Steel and Pipe at the top of what they do business-wise. One, with pipe, steel, and metal. Secondly, they have incredible customer service. It's not just something they say, it's something they do. And now building their brand new facility that continues to be built and put up in the Waco area that's going to make them bigger, better, faster, stronger, but they will not lose the core values of what and how they have stayed in business since 1943. Pipe, steel, metal, they're incredible when it comes to helping you if you want to build a metal building. They also can help you with contractors that they trust so that you won't have a project delayed that takes forever. It's Pioneer Steel and Pipe, since 1943 in both Waco and Bryan. PioneerBoys.com.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. Cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable
lights. They're used to water in their mouth. They're used to experience. They already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8-year-old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Shaken, soft loft, and it's caught inside the 10. Drew Estrada.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, the linebacker position, and every program has different names that they call the hybrid. There's the star, there's the jack, there's all sorts of other names that certain programs use. Some of them use the same one. Caleb Collins took over as linebackers coach when Joey McGuire took the job as head coach at Texas Tech, and we've heard nothing but great things about him. And the linebacker play actually seemed to get better or more consistent. And now they have a new wave because Bernard's gone, but they have Doyle, Jones, among some others.
Outside linebackers coach. He coaches the jack spot.
And Roberts.
Roberts coaches the Terrell Bernards and you know, or the Dylan Doyles, certainly being a, you know, inside guy. But yeah, he's the outside linebackers coach or the jack spot. And, you know, Joey McGuire decides he's got to go recruit in the middle of the season for Texas Tech and take that job when he did. And, you know, left them in a little bit of a lurch, but I think they might have actually upgraded. And I'm not trying to disparage Joey McGuire before everybody goes crazy, but did y'all see a drop-off? No, there was no drop-off. If anything, they actually played pretty dadgum well down the stretch. His first game was the Oklahoma game as a coach. they handled Oklahoma pretty well. I know Lincoln had distractions and whatnot, but I mean, you go and you look at the Sugar Bowl, 10 sacks in that game, and a good portion of them were from the Jack linebackers. You know, you had Matt Jones there, Garmin Randolph there. As you'll hear, Garmin Randolph's injured right now, and Matt Jones, I think it's kind of in the middle of them trying to figure out what to do with him because he can play multiple positions, but you know, they now have Josh White. And so if Josh White comes in, when he comes in, you know, how does that affect sort of, you know, what they do with the group? So until Josh White's on campus, we don't have the full picture, although we can kind of start guessing. But Caleb Collins is mightily impressive. He's one of the best interviews that we've heard all spring. A super young coach who's really just getting started. And, I mean, how could you have a better, you know, pair of mentors than Dave Aranda and Ron Roberts? I mean, to have played for Roberts and now to be coach, phone call, and little did he know he would be, you know, jumping onto the LSU staff and winning a national championship, and then just a couple of years after that, you know, becoming a position coach for the first time. So it's been a wild ride in a short amount of time for him, but he's a bright star on the come-up, that's for sure.
All right, well, you're about to go to practice because there's an open media session at the start of practice and then audio, video with players and a coach afterwards. So Craig's going to go to practice. We'll hear from Mack Rhodes, of course, in the next segment. But speaking of the outside linebackers coach, Caleb Collins, he was one who met yesterday with the media.
Coach, how's the group looking? Are they progressing like you're hoping?
Oh yeah. With you know, some of the injuries to Garmin, it's opened up the door for Tony and Jackie Marshall to get a lot more reps. Victor Obi. So yeah, man, just excited. I mean, you know, those guys are really progressing and taking advantage of the opportunity that's in front of them.
Caleb, what was that opportunity like for you at the end of last year? I mean, after Joey left, just to kind of step in there and take over that spot?
Man, it was crazy because, you know, I just thank God because I definitely felt prepared. You know, I didn't really feel like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. And especially with it being Oklahoma week, you know, I just started with first asking Coach McGuire, like, hey, you know, what's the feel for the room? And after that, I just, you know, met with those guys, you know, and a lot of them I knew. I had worked with Garmin when I was working with Coach Dennis Johnson with the D-line. So I worked with Garmin. I had worked with Matt. So, you know, it was kind of like I stepped into the room, and like I said, the vibe and the feeling, those guys loved each other, so it was awesome. But as far as like me, myself, I just felt like, hey, I've been around great coaches for a long time with, you know, playing for Coach Roberts and GA and for Coach Aranda, so I just felt like, you know, just this is what you've been preparing for, just make the most of it, you know, put a good product out on the field and don't let the team down.
And really, what a great time to come in because you got to coach a Big 12 championship game, Sugar Bowl. I mean, that had to be some really good experience.
Oh yeah. I remember being in the box during the Big 12 championship. Like, man, this is crazy. Like, I'm about to walk into a Big 12 championship. Like that first half, it seemed like couldn't nothing go wrong. I mean, you know, we 17 for 17. Like, defense got 3 picks. I'm like, oh man, my first game, I'm finna walk into a Big 12 championship. And then that second half, I was like, see, this is the real. I was like, this is what it's really like. I mean, you know, but I mean, you know, shoot, that fourth down stop, man, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the best experience ever.
Yeah, and then the way they played in the Sugar Bowl.
Really cool 10 sacks, man, 10 sacks, and just proud of them guys because, you know, a lot of the game plan was really on the F position and the Jacks being able to really two-gap on the edge, and, man, they just bought into it. Matt, Garmin, they really just bought into the technique we was teaching, and it showed up big time. I mean, they had multiple tackles and TFLs just from being able to play primary to secondary. So that was huge. Actually, most of like the clinic talks I've done this off season, I've talked about that. I've talked about just that technique and how it showed up late in the season. Yeah.
I think Coach Roberts said, did Tony get hurt during camp or something last year?
Yes. Yeah, right before the season started last year.
He said he was kind of in position to really play.
Yeah, he was in a prime position, and you know, even talking with him as he came back later in the year, he was just saying like, you know, hey, you know, I don't really know if I could go full speed on it. So that's been one of the things I think he's just been most grateful for and thankful for. This spring ball is like getting back to full speed, kind of picking up where he left off, and it showed. You know, he's playing pretty hard right now, and you know, he's putting it all out there. Yep, he's been running with the one group most of spring ball, you know, with Garmin's injury, and he's been taking advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah, what's Garmin's deal?
First he got his wisdom teeth removed, so he went through like the first week of spring ball, got his wisdom teeth removed. First practice came out, flying around, got the biggest smile on his face, making plays, and in 9:07 he fractures his hand.
Oh, okay.
So, it's just one of those deals where not requiring surgery, so they keeping him out, but they don't want him to bang it and then the bone kind of shifts.
Okay.
So they just want the bone, I guess, to fuse, and so I think he'll be back able to do some contact the week of the spring game, but but he's still in it. He's being a leader. He's in meetings, really being vocal, and during a scrimmage last week, I think Tony and Jackie made a mistake early, and it was just like, hey, them being young guys having to understand, hey, I got to move on to the next play. And he was really a big advocate in saying, like, hey, it happens all the time, keep playing. And it showed up because they was able to finish the scrimmage off strong instead of just letting that one play turn into a momentum, a snowball effect.
I was trying to remember, is Jackie a walk-on or is he an actual scholarship?
Yeah, Jackie is a scholarship player. Yeah, he's a scholarship player.
When did he come in?
He came in after fall camp last year. Yes, sir. Yep, he came in after fall camp from Louisiana. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you see from him?
Man, explosive as can be. He's like a freaking rolling ball of butcher knives. Like it's like for him to be that big and to move as well as he does, and it's like such twitch. It's like he shouldn't be able to do that, but he does. So the main thing that I've really learned from him this spring is the more reps he gets, the better the better he is. Because with him, it's all just knowing what we're doing. Getting better at how we're doing it, but it's like I say, the more comfortable he feels, the more and more he's just making plays. He's a very productive player. He just has to, continue to learn the system.
I think those weights must be a little off.
Oh yeah, I think on the scale, it's like 235. Yeah,
he's like 250, 260.
Yeah, yes sir. He's
a big guy.
Yeah, he's a big guy, but solid though.
His way into end or?
Nah, I hope not.
Yeah,
I hope
you
not.
want him there.
Yeah, I want him at Jack. Yeah. Yeah, but like I say, the more reps he's getting, the better player he's becoming. And like I say, he's just taking advantage of the opportunity in front of him this spring. Yeah, so it's just exciting time, man. I remember it was a time during, when we was lifting weights and just looking at them dudes. I'm like, man, like I'm blessed. Like, you got Victor Obi, you got freaking Garmin Randolph, you got Jackie, you got Tony, you got Will Garner. I'm like, Prince. I'm like, man, look at these dudes. And then you got Bryson. Bryson is probably our best returning pass rusher. So it's like, I'm like, come on, man. It don't get much better than this.
Is he double training some inside?
Yeah, he's training some inside, and it's helping him. It's really helping him just get the whole picture.
Yeah.
Instead of him just being a pass rush guy, we will be able to utilize him more on third downs. Like, okay, now we showing him here, like, because he's going to be the main guy with him being the best returning pass rusher. He going to probably be the main guy that people looking at next year. Like, okay, just block him. Like, if we could block him, we probably could work out the rest, so.
You talked about it a little bit, but how comfortable are you with, like you said, you played for Ron, you were a GA with Dave. How comfortable are you in that role, I guess? Man,
really comfortable, and I really appreciate, I just feel like sometimes, like, Coach Roberts really helps me out a lot by just telling me the real, like, hey, this is what we need to work on. Like, these are the techniques I think you should, kind of introduce to the group. And, he doesn't really hold back any of that, like, thinking I got an ego or none of that, because it's like, I played for him. So, and then, like I say, with Coach Aranda, just soaking it all up. As this GA, I felt like, man, like, this is crazy. I went from coaching, my B team basketball to, I got a call from Coach Roberts saying Coach Aranda was looking for a GA, and I'm like, what? Like, and I left high school ball and went to LSU, and I just remember the first day pulling up, like, that's Tiger Stadium, and I remember, like, I'm sitting at my little GA desk, and I see a playbook that say Young on it. It's like LSU defense. I'm like, man, this can't be happening right now. So, and I still never really lost that little aura. Like, man, I'm still working with Ron Roberts and Dave Aranda, and my first full-time job hasn't left.
Caleb, anybody there? Caleb Collins, the outside linebackers coach. That's from yesterday. Appreciate his time. And again, you hear a lot of great things about him. And And he's got a pretty good group, young, raw group in many ways. And Craig, again, there's an article, Sikkim365.com in the premium section.
Transfer portal news, Kamar Wheaton, former 5-star recruit at Alabama, entered the transfer portal. He is going to SMU to play for Rhett Lashley and the Ponies. So that's a big get for them.
Yeah, that's a great deal for them as well. When we come back, Mac Rhodes, Director of Athletics at Baylor, Sikkim, 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans, they have a new CBD product called Vita Dreams, but it's now with a new manufacturer and even a little bit more oomph, if that's what you want, when it comes to trying to make sure you fall asleep peacefully, quicker than normal, no matter what's on your mind. Maybe you're going through something financially. Maybe there's something going on at work. Maybe there's something in your personal life, or maybe you have a hell of a lot of things on your plate and you can't sleep because you're thinking about them. That has to be done the next day or next week, and you need, at times, a chance to fall asleep, and you can't. Well, Vita Dreams with Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco can help you out. It's a gummy. And you find out you eventually kind of just, you don't experiment by any means, but you have a gummy, fall asleep. Maybe it's a little bit more than you want because you wake up, you're pretty like, wow. Or maybe you need to take a little bit more. You find that out. That's what I've done, and I sleep better now than I have slept in a long, long time. But more importantly, I fall asleep quicker, and it peacefully. It feels great. Vita Dreams, Don Humidor and Coffee Beans, also with their 48-foot walk-in humidor loaded up with the great cigars in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the City of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed and kids club, 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive. It's a staple of the Waco economy. And you're about to approach this time of the year where you have the holidays, special gifts. It's not that you don't have that every single day. What are some of the things you have coming up?
You know, we kind of call ourselves the wedding ring store. We do all of our own custom work in-house. I've got 2 expert jewelers on staff every day. We can make anything from scratch. We kind of pride ourselves, probably 9 out of 10 every engagement ring we do is actually made custom to what the customer wants.
People look at that, oh my God, I can't afford it. I can't afford something like that. You've shown me examples that you could fit pretty much any budget.
It doesn't cost any more to custom make something. You still have gold, you still have diamonds, and you still have labor. Best thing about a custom piece is if you have any old jewelry or heirloom jewelry or something passed down from a grandma or somebody, we can take that jewelry and use it towards your wedding ring for the sentimental value, and then you've got the product, and then it's just a little bit of labor and a little bit of design on your part of what you actually want.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Our weekly segment with Baylor Director of Athletics Mack Rhodes is brought to you by Edward Jones Investments Brokers, Tom Albers, Brad Wilson, Ben Erlinson, and Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Baylor Director of Athletics Mack Rhodes joins us. Mack Rhodes joins us every Tuesday, most every Tuesday, in the 4 o'clock hour, and he is with us again today. Craig Smoak is over at Baylor football practice. We'll be back here momentarily. Mac, thank you so much for your time. I want to get into the NIL collective, the jerseys and the shirts and all that, name, image, likeness, and what you have, and then a couple of other questions. But last night, the WNBA, your program, the one that Nikki Collin runs, with 3 players drafted. Nilissa Smith, Queen Egbo immediately in the first and second round. Jordan Lewis, just the pride you had with that.
Yeah, just truthfully a great night for Baylor women's basketball, and again to see Nilissa Smith, pick number 2 and becoming the third top 2 pick in program history, and Queen Egbo again. Same team, which I think is really a neat opportunity for those two to go to a team together. But going number 10 and first time in program history that we've had 2 top 10 picks, and then Jordan Lewis, the graduate transfer, and who's just who did such a great job for us on and off the court, and just as a wonderful young person. To be drafted, and that's the 4th straight year Baylor's had a grad transfer drafted, and so just excited for those 3. Excited for the exposure for our program. Proud of Nikki for the way she handled those 3 particular individuals, and feel like all 3 of them really grew as people and as basketball players under her watch. So again, a great night for our basketball program.
Mac, Craig went off to practice, but he didn't want us to ask you about the NIL, the names on the jerseys and all the things that have gone on with that, and that you're starting to sell those. How's that going so far, and what have the early returns been?
Yeah, I don't know that I've gotten a recent update, but we're certainly excited to do that and to give the opportunity for our young men to be able to, and our young women to have that opportunity, and for us to be able to do that, and provide our fans the opportunity to get jerseys with particular individual names on it. So it's I think it's a really cool step that we took as a program, athletic department, and getting into that space, and we'll see what other future opportunity there is in front of us. So but glad we got there, and I think it's a really good opportunity for our fans and our student athletes.
Mac, the transfer portal, which we could ask you about every day, every week, every year, and of course until something maybe is ever done with it as far as some sort of a managing it. But we had a story today, I'm not going to bring up the name, but a young man was at Maryland, transfers to Kansas State, was there 4 months, and now he's back in the transfer portal. Is there, did I miss something here? Is it still unlimited transfer without any kind of penalty of sitting out? What is the actual rule?
Yeah, that's interesting, and I don't know that particular case, and were they an official member of the roster? But you're able to do that one time, and be able to play right away, but just that one time. So I don't know that particular case or instance. So, but we're starting to see now that men's basketball season, particularly men's basketball, the season has completed. You're starting to see some, I'm not going to say all, but some of the student athletes entering the portal and talking to one another and asking one another, what are you getting from school? What does that school offer? And so now you're starting to have some of these student athletes saying, well, hey, school X, it's going to take a name, image, and likeness deal worth this much if you want me to come there. And I'm being real with you, and that's happening with some players that I would say are average players. So this is the reality that we're dealing with right now. This is the reality that Scott Drew is dealing with. This is the reality that we're all trying to navigate. And I don't, again, I don't think this is good for intercollegiate athletics, and this cross section of name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal. That's where we are right now, and it remains to be seen if the market will correct itself. But it's not a good place to be.
Yeah, Mac, I think there'll probably be, there's obviously going to be some market corrections in that after a few years of this, if you're not a good player and people are paying out these NIL deals to you and getting nothing from it, I'm sure that the money flow will end then. But isn't the bigger issue is the kind of the system overall in that if you let the forest overgrow too much, can you even purge it to clear it with all the different things that are going on? What rules can you instill to even just dial it back 5%?
Yeah, Paul, I think you're right. And Smoak, you said we could talk about this, every day, and we could probably talk about it for 2 hours every day. And so, I think there's a lot going on in this space. I think, one, name, image, and likeness and receiving compensation for your name, image, and likeness, right? And so I think there's monitoring of, is that really happening? Are student athletes really doing something to earn that name, image, and likeness compensation? Are they really doing something of value to earn that name, image, and likeness compensation? So I think that's one, right? And then just the idea of how we do this in a maybe more organized manner and fashion. And so, do we need to get to a point, place, and time where there's transfer portal windows and it's not open the entire time. So there's a lot that we're sitting here and having to deal with. At what point in time, do programs cannibalize themselves? And so when you think about collectives and donors, when do donors say, hey, I've got capacity to only give X. And so what's most important to me is making sure that I have good seats, at football games or basketball games or, softball games or baseball games. And the only way for me to do that is to give to, the scholarship foundation, Student Athlete Scholarship Foundation, and not not the collective. You know, we can only do so much. You brought it up. You know, what happens, and there were some examples this year, some real examples of companies putting some big money behind some student athletes, and quite frankly, those student athletes didn't perform well, and so what happens? So what happens there? But so there will be some correction to it, but I don't know that. I guess in the meantime, it's a really hard space to navigate for our coaches, and I've got to believe, and this is me speaking out loud. I've got to believe, even for some of the institutions that we're reading about, and it's perceived as buying their rosters. If that's what's really happening, I just don't know, and I don't think coaches are even coaches at that institution feel really, really good about how this is all falling out. And so, now do we, how do you manage those rosters where you've got, some young people that are earning millions of dollars and some not, and there was a conversation I had today with somebody about an offensive lineman, a 5-star offensive lineman that decided one school over the other because a name, image, and likeness of 1.2, and the school that lost out is sitting there going, like, if they would have even come to our place, they wouldn't have even have started. And yet we were getting into this game about bidding 1.2, and they're coming to our place and not even going to be on the 2 deep. So this is the space that we're in and trying to navigate, and the transformation committee is going to have certainly a big part in this, but we're going to have to land in a better place than we are now, because I think this model right now, the reality that we're in, that we're going through this very moment, it's not sustainable. Maybe it is for 10 or 12 institutions, but it's not for everyone.
Yeah, it seems like it's a little bit dangerous and like the Wild West. Now, if you had that ability, if you could yourself have the ability to throw out $1.2 million or whatever, would you still feel the same way?
So that's a great question and a fair question, and I appreciate it. And Smoak, it's something that we are currently talking about a lot. When it comes to Baylor specific, right? Mm-hmm. Why have we been successful? And trying to break that down, right? And it's not because we have the most money, and it's not necessarily because when you look at our rosters, we have rosters filled with 5- and 4-star kids. I go back to our women's basketball team that won the national championship the year before last, right? Think about that roster, and how many 5-star kids were on that roster. So are we now going into a time and getting into a time where there's even a bigger, higher premium on money, and for those that can spend all of that money, they're going to be at a real advantage. I think absolutely there's more of an emphasis. And so when you ask the question, if we could spend the 1.2, or would we spend the 1.2? And again, it's not us really spending it. It's right. It's the collectives, it's the company, it's the whoever. I think we've got to be really thoughtful and really careful about who that young person is and how that fits into our culture. If we do that and it begins to disrupt our culture, then it's probably not very smart I personally think that if we can continue in the future to put a premium on the wellness of our people, the mental wellness, the spiritual wellness, our culture, that's how we're going to continue to be relevant and win. And again, I'm not naive enough to think that, hey, we can navigate this space without having to play the name, image, and likeness game. And quite frankly, we're playing it right now. But we're going to be careful in how we do it.
Mac, how much of it is, if you look at what NIL creates as free agency, essentially in the transfer portal, it's like professional free agency. But in professional free agency, there's a market for you based on what you've done. If you are Aaron Rodgers and you're up for a contract, you can get $100 million because you've shown that you bear out the market. When you're a high school kid coming into college or a kid in the transfer portal who's leaving because he didn't play somewhere, then that's upside down based on the economics of sports that we've all come to know and love. And that's not even bringing in the fact that we're not even talking about professional sports. We're talking about college sports, which is changing, like splitting like an atom in a nuclear reactor right now.
I think I followed you, Paul.
I didn't. I'm not that smart.
Atom and nuclear reactor, but I just, and again, I appreciate this conversation, but in a way, and I'm going to probably even be stronger than that. I feel strongly that we're doing young people a disservice, and we're now putting money in front of young people that in some instances they haven't earned, and so now you begin down this slippery slope of entitlement, and now all of a sudden we put a lot of pressure on these young people, and again, you think about ages ranging from 18 to 22, and now you receive this money, and now you got so much going on in your life, and you're trying to navigate being away from home for the first time, and academics and time management and practice and all of those things, and now we've just put right smack dab on top of you, man. You better perform at a high level, right? You better perform and equate to the money that we just provided you, or that you're going to get by doing some things in terms of name, image, and likeness. And so it's a slippery slope. And again, you go back to the intent, right? The intent was, hey, give student athletes an opportunity, okay, to earn some compensation off their name, image, and likeness. And yet you haven't even performed yet, or you've been an average player and you're transferring, or you're a prospect in high school going to college, and your name, image, and likeness hasn't even really developed because you haven't really even done much on the field yet or on the court yet. And yet here's this money that we're giving you and putting that pressure on. So that's the space that we're in right now.
I saw this story. Mac Rose with us, and Mac, I know we're up against the time we have you on, but this was from last week. Only 22 of 130 NCAA FBS level schools say they have plans to provide an allowed academic bonus payment to athletes this year. So right now you have cost of living. Right now there's NIL. Right now there's the transfer portal, which is free to come and go as you want. And now I'm not against if it's part of money that's earned or part of whatever, but now you have this academic bonus payment, which to me makes the most sense of anything because it's student athlete. I know I'm going to be laughed at because that's the term I still use. Where is Baylor on this? Is this something you guys are trying to gain a fund to also do this, or is that something you're already doing?
So, what you're talking about is NCAA versus Alston and this, this academic award that's tethered to academics, and it's a maximum amount of $5,980 per academic year. And so this is now permissive. You don't have to do it, but you can do it. And, different conferences have governed it different ways. And, some it's open to any student athlete, no matter whether or not they're on athletic scholarship or not. Some it's just open to student athletes that are on athletic scholarship. Nonetheless, yes, Baylor, we've been planning on it. We have a process set up. We have what those academic requirements are to achieve those monies on an annual basis. We will begin implementing starting with the fall semester, fall of 2022, and just for an example, that will be a $2.1 million investment by our athletic department annually to do that annually. So yes, we're ready to go. We're fully engaged, prepared to do it. We've made a commitment to do it. And then, as we've been talking about, you've got that piece that goes on top of full cost of attendance that our student athletes receive. And then you've got now this other element that's, name, image, and likeness. And again, we've been very, very active. We have student athletes that are, being, fairly well compensated, and, we'll have some other student athletes here in the near future that are going to be compensated extremely well via name, image, and likeness. So, but again, we're going to be careful and thoughtful on how we do it.
That $2.1 million annually, is that for the 400 or 500 student athletes, or is that per sport? Or it wouldn't be per sport. Is that throughout the athletic department? So someone in volleyball or whoever hits certain academic thresholds, they are eligible to get that?
Yeah, so that represents our student athletes that are eligible for it. And when you take the number of student athletes and you times that, and you do it by times it by the 5980, you get to the 2.1. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to divide that 5980 into two payments. There's going to be one for the fall semester and one for the spring semester. And we're not going to distribute the one for the fall semester until the spring. You can't earn it in the fall semester and then decide to go transfer somewhere else and pay it to you. You're going to have to be a student athlete with Baylor University. And so we probably have had our plan in place for the last 6 months and have talked to our coaches, but we're ready to go, and we'll be in that space, as I suspect every Big 12 school will be.
Yeah, I did see some of the others that were listed, and some of them were with the Big 12. Have you and others started to interview commissioner candidates?
No.
My next follow-up question is, right, and then you're going to hang up on us.
Yeah. No, I think, logically next step is to hire somebody to help facilitate and lead the search. And so that's the process. And then, once that's completed, there'll be, I'm certain, whoever that person, that firm is, then there'll be a fact gathering, process of them talking to people within our conference. And then I think finally you begin to develop a list and begin to, outreach to potential candidates, et cetera. So it's still a ways off.
Well, Mac, we appreciate you always. A lot of people who are listening to us are about your transparency, and I think this is true. Someone on your staff once told me that you were in a staff meeting and said, "Let's keep this like for right now in this room," and then you joined our show and then you spilled the beans on something. Have you ever gotten in trouble for that?
Yeah, I've probably done that once or twice.
We love it. We love that.
You just did that as a favor to us.
Yeah,
that was it. I mean, you said, keep it in here. I'll go take care of it. That's all.
I forgot. It might have been Jeremiah because he likes to. We're going to have him on this week and we'll ask him. But one time he said you walked out of a meeting, you were in the hallway doing the show, which again, we take too much more of your time. And you were like, and then all of a sudden you walk back in the meeting, they're like, you just said that to them. And you just told them what you said. And we appreciate that. We really do.
Well, I probably honestly then looked at them and said, did I really say that in that? I had so many conversations, but hey, I trust you all and look, obviously can't share.
I know.
But we want to be as transparent and let you all know and the listeners know what we're trying to navigate and certainly what's top of mind for us.
Fan bases around the country are impressed and appreciate it. So do we. Thank you, Mac. Appreciate your time.
All right. Take care.
Mac Roach, Director of Athletics. There's a couple of things to unfurl. One, they will start that $2.1 million. They have a fund to start to do the $5,980. Cut that in half per semester to student athletes who hit a specific academic threshold. The list that I had, this is from an ESPN story. And let me see how many. There's 22. I can name them. Arkansas, Auburn, Clemson, Colorado, UConn, Florida, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Ole Miss, Oregon, South Carolina, Iowa State, Tennessee, Texas, and Kentucky, LSU, Texas Tech, Miami, Missouri, Washington, and Wisconsin. That's about a week ago. And so Baylor does plan to start that during the fall of 2022. That's new news. He made it very clear and was not holding back information that Baylor is very much involved in the NIL business. He has kind of said that before, and it has definitely changed. And there's also those who are on Sikkim365.com. The message boards are like, hey, how do we keep up? Now, can you keep up with A&M or Texas or whatever? That's really up to you.
Well, he said, look, there's probably 10 or 12 schools you're really talking about that can do that, and then it's the market. Again, the market's going to eventually – I'm very curious to see 5 years from now, some of these companies are like, we paid this kid $1 million for what?
Yep.
And my point on the free agency thing is, look, if Aaron Rodgers is a free agent, when Tom Brady was a free agent, he can go on the market and demand what he wants because he's Tom freaking Brady, okay?
He's got rings, blings, and also
he has
records,
all this thing we know about him. But on the coming from high school to college, like Max said, or if you're leaving a college to go to another one because you couldn't crack the lineup at the other one, why do I owe you any money?
He also made comments without saying anybody that maybe some players who got some NIL money last year or a part of this school year maybe have not reached what perhaps was the thought or the
I'll give you two examples. Spencer Rattler and DJ Uiagalelei. Got a bunch of money from big companies, and Spencer Rattler transferred to South Carolina, and DJ is in a quarterback. I mean, a fight for his life right now with Cade Klubnik, who's a true freshman.
Yeah, no question. Also, Paula, thank you as always. Paula, you're always incredibly loyal to us and appreciate you. The weekly interview alone is what makes this show heads and shoulders above the rest. So much great information. And many others. Bob Kramer agreed. And even Michael Davis, Texas Tech fan here, and I know we're up against a break. Got to say that Mac is one of the best 80s in the business. Really appreciate the insight he brings on this show. Bobby Estrada, come to FSU, Mac. Got a lot of respect for this man. Very open. And in fact, he was saying that most ADs, most coaches give you very generic and sometimes kind of like don't want to give too much. One thing about Mac, it'll never change because of the trust, is that he has at times been in a meeting about something. We may have heard about it. Ask him. He gives us information on it, goes back in the meeting, and they're like,
well, I guess it's out here now.
Yeah, I mean, can we now, and I'm not talking about like nuclear physics and where all the things are buried. I'm not saying that. I'm just, but
by the way, Bobby, that's the only place I will allow him to go.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
If he goes there, it's fine.
So
I've already tried, believe me.
And so he also mentioned it's for all student athletes. In Baylor, I believe, Jack or Paul, don't they have like over 500 when you think about all the different schools and also Title IX? So that's the availability of $5,980 per school year. And if you do reach it, you get that split in half, both for the fall ones, also payment for the spring. And that's yet new money on top of what also is out there. All right, when we come back, Craig's at practice. We're going to kind of get a really mini segment, then come back to him at 5:15. Brian Davis covers Texas. His thoughts from the Austin American-Statesman, Hall of Famer John McClain on the NFL at 5:30, and Paul's Top 5 Sikkim. 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? to try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Thanks to Mac Rhodes. We have a very, very small sliver here with this particular segment because we got to catch up on a break. We appreciate Mac Rhodes and his time. I just checked out ESPN, the homepage, just to see if there was anything trending or whatever it might be. There's this story, and we don't have time, but there's a story where Congress is discussing and looking at the financial records of the Washington Commanders and Daniel Snyder, the owner. This is ongoing because of everything else of the blank dumpster fire show. If, in fact, there's any shred of legitimate evidence, not just reporting and this and that, if there's any evidence that he has withheld any money that took any money away from what is the revenue sharing, he's gone. I mean, what's $10 or $10 million? He's gone. Now, all the other stuff, all the harassment stuff, all the sexual allegations and all that, that's a different entity. Or not, that's a different part of the story. That's bad enough, whatever, it's true. But if, in fact, he's known or there's evidence that he was hiding money from the other owners, whoever's protecting him now will turn their backs on him. We don't know if this is true, although there apparently was some damning information today.
There's a lot of smoke here, and we'll see what happens. And it's already gotten, too political because the House Oversight Committee is Democrats, and there's Republicans saying, well, they're already blaming it on Joe Biden. And you're like, well, look, it has nothing to do with either of you. It has everything to do with Dan Snyder. Let's talk about Dan Snyder. Let's not conflate the issue with any other problems you two are having in your little awful marriage and on Capitol Hill there. But let's find out what the real issue is. Is Dan Snyder skimming off the top from the NFL, which in that case would be a really stupid crime if you were doing it.
I can't imagine that's true. I can't.
That's why I'm having a hard time. But there's apparently in the report they were hiding some money in season tickets under Roger Goodell's name, that they didn't report any stuff. Like they took some of that income that they were supposed to give back to season ticket holders as a refund and then rolled it into like some stuff about a Kenny Chesney concert and some other things that they had there at FedEx Field. So they're hiding money in different events that they had at FedEx Field, which I think part of the thing is you have to look at is, okay, if FedEx Field is making all this money, why is it falling apart?
Yeah.
And so though you ask those questions, all then okay.
I'm going to have to get John Keim, who covers Washington. Let's try to get him on and kind of explain.
And we'll see.
One thing we have seen, and this is not to be political, this is to be about where we are. The piranhas just attack a story, and then at the end of the storyline, there's nothing. It's just a bunch of headlines. I'm not saying that's the case with Daniel Snyder, but if there's any evidence that he withheld any money at all from the other 31 franchises in the National Football League, he's a dead man walking. All the other stuff, I know it's still serious, has nothing to do with you take money away from a billionaire because they don't have enough money.
Here's the thing I think we can all say with confidence about Daniel Snyder and the Washington franchise.
The only thing that matters, Paul, is they're not winning enough. I don't care.
Something above that's not above board is probably going on there. But is that something really something that matters to the NFL, or is it nothing? And
that's why they're a dumpster fire and a shit show. Excuse me, they are. I'm a lifelong fan of theirs. But maybe that's why, because they're such a dumpster fire with all the other stuff that's going on. We'll see. We'll let that know. We'll see what happens. But it looks like he might, as even Bobby said, has his hand in maybe more than one cookie jar. All right. When we come back, we hope to have Craig back from practice just around the corner. What are we, about a mile? Maybe less than a mile from McLean Stadium and I-35 here on Elm Avenue. And from Ray Grange, by the way, Snyder trying to skim money from the Golden Goose. That's pretty stupid. The Golden Goose, they all protect each other. This is Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental. I've got a procedure coming up on May the 6th. I have neglected at times my dental work. And I don't know, a lot of people, they end up not going to the dentist because you get scared because you know whether or not you've been doing the proper work to keep your teeth clean. I do that. Not just brushing your teeth, but keep your gums and all that clean. And then sometimes you like, there's a year that goes by. And then you're scared to death. And then all of a sudden something happens. Like, for example, a molar. You bite on a piece of meat or a cracker, and oh, my God, it hurts. If you're in the Central Texas area and you don't know about Dr. Steve Childress and Stonewood Dental, you should. He's amazing. I'm not going to say he's a miracle worker, but he has taken me in as a patient. And the dental work he's done on me that could be so extremely tough, he's made it very comfortable for me, and I'm getting more and more done. He's fantastic. If you have any dental work that you've let kind of slip, I'm telling you right now, Steve Childress, Dr. Steve Childress, and Stonewood Dental in Robinson, give him a try.
Payments for qualified buyers at 2.9% for 72 months with $5,000 down cash or trade. TTL Extra. See dealer for details.
Summer driving is coming. Save now at Richard Carr's Summer is Coming savings event. Find summer savings like a 2015 GMC Sierra 2500 HD for $318 a month, or 2020 Buick Encore for $288 a month, or get a 2015 Cadillac SRX for $212 a month. Our vehicles go through a 172-point inspection, and we pay top dollar for your trade. 100% approval is always our goal.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance, and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com, or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
3rd and goal. Here's Chapin into the end zone, and how about that swagger? Another touchdown pass for Chapin. Ben Sims on the receiving end of this one.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
That picture during the commercial break, which Jack moved the camera, is of some of the progress. You're if that's the right word to use, right here on the corner of where we are, 101 Elm Avenue on MLK and Elm Avenue, and we read the story about that. There's railroad tracks and old, what did I say, Paul? Craig just left, right? On the,
like electrical
pipe and whatever.
Yeah, stuff that
it's a big deal.
Stuff from the 30s that used to be there, like the TVA, I'm sure.
Yeah, so there you go with that. And Craig's back, by the way, was at practice a minute ago. And they're not going to do a lot in front of the media, but it's open for video, for sound bites and all that later on after the show. And Craig, anything other than just watching athletes run around that you want to share with us?
I mean, there's a couple things, but no, there's going to be no scientific breakdown of, tight end drills or anything like that. I mean, that's basically the portion that we watch is position groups. I guess Tyquan Thornton was out there as he gets ready to go to the NFL draft here in a couple of weeks. He's looking, like a surefire draft pick. Just a matter of if it's a late day 2 or a day 3 type of thing. I'd probably lean towards day 3. I think that's when most everybody but Petrie's probably going to go is day 3. But Tyquan was out there just hanging out as he kills time until the draft. So it's always good to see former players back. Some coaches out there, like high school coaches and whatnot, are visiting as always. And, notice Javon, their receiving core right now is I don't know what's going to happen there. They have a lot of guys you can name their names, but if you want to name numbers next to those names, you basically come out with about 1 catch for 9 yards all of last year. I mean, there's no experience practically in that room. And not only that, this is an all-important time because of the fact that there's such little experience there. They're all hurt. All of them are hurt. So, they're like Jalen Ellis was out there, but he had an injury jersey on. So at least that's progress because last time I saw him, he wasn't going fully through drills. But at least it seems like they're getting some of those guys back. Even Garmin Randolph, who I wrote about yesterday, despite the fact that he's got a cast or whatever on his fractured hand, he was out there at least doing drills, so it's good that he's involved. He's not just sitting off to the side. He's getting as involved as he can, and got a little bit of Jackson Player. He looks good and quick, and you look at that D-line room with him and Cole Maxwell and Apu Ika and the rest of those guys, and that's a good-looking group there that Dennis Johnson has going. Trying to think, there's one. Squirrel Williams wasn't out there. I don't know if that's an injury thing or if that's a classroom thing where he's got a class.
Could
just
be
so
managing
happens,
too.
Could be managing. Yeah. He could have been in the indoor, and I just didn't notice him. So, but just noted that he wasn't out there. Didn't see him. Nor Matt Jones, who's been hurt and hadn't been out there. So those were a couple that I noticed missing. But yeah, a lot of the other injured guys, they were at least looking like they were getting more involved. And Javon Gibson, who looks really solid physically, does not look like a young receiver. He looks like a grown man. He was out running routes and stuff off to the side, so at least he's another guy who appears that he's working his way back. But they are a mash unit at wide receiver right now. Now, there's some guys that are healthy and able to go, but they don't have a whole lot of, if they did a scrimmage, they don't have a lot of depth to work with and get physical with because of Ellis and Presley, who wasn't out there, Hal Presley, because he's on a scooter, so he wasn't going to be able to do anything. So then Gibson was off to the side. Presley wasn't out there. Ellis was in an injury jersey, and there was another guy. And so that's kind of what they're dealing with right now. And they need those guys to get healthy and be ready to go. It's not make or break, right now, but the season's not far away, and they don't have a whole lot. That's why Grayson and I were talking earlier today. If they go get a transfer wide receiver, it would not surprise me in the slightest.
That's everything you just said. I mean, all I kept hearing is you may have to wait for the transfer portal and have somebody who, and probably somebody who's a grad transfer too. That might be where you lean.
They need an older guy
because they want an older guy, somebody who's seen some stuff, as opposed to one reception for 9 yards last year and an end around in the Sugar Bowl.
Speaking of the offensive line, Cup conversation. Last year I had a conversation with Coach Mateos about, was it a talent issue or a depth issue? And he had mentioned that he thought that the talent was there and that there was maybe a timeline, a clock that he could put in these kids' heads that had not really performed over 3, 4, or 5 years, and that maybe the end date could maybe get them to a different level, like Xavier Newman-Johnson or whatever. It was like last year you hoped you had 2 guys and you wanted to have 8. This year you have 8 guys, and they're all really pretty good. he mentioned Mazuka. I keep saying his name wrong. He actually told me the name. It's Mazuka. You're right. Is really got an unbelievable potential to be a pro prospect.
Yeah, for everybody, like there's people that are still butchering Apu's name and Mazuka, and there's some other ones that come to mind that are mispronounced. The what do you call it? The phonetic spelling is on the programs and on the rosters and stuff. So that's how I learned how to pronounce Apu Ika's name correctly. And
Siaki
Apu Ika.
Yeah, Apu Ika. And for a long time it was Ika, I-K-A. Yeah. And then also with the offensive lineman, Mazuka is how it sounds pretty good. It sounds like a bazooka as an offensive lineman as well.
That group looked pretty healthy. I'd seen a bunch of guys that were sidelined the other day that were running stairs while practice was going on, because that's what they had the injured guy, or that's what they had him doing that day, was just walking stairs and whatnot in the stadium. But today they look to be pretty, at full strength. I mean, again, just most of the injuries we were already aware of, but you're starting to see some guys come back, and it was just notable who wasn't out there. But again, that could be a class thing, or just had them working out indoors somewhere because they weren't able to be full goes. But I'm trying to think if there was anything. I mean, quarterbacks, just got to see them throw it around a little bit. Wasn't much to really say there. I mean, Gary looks like the guy. I'm pretty confident in that right now. Just based on everything that we've heard and really what's been said mostly, it's all just seems to point to him. But there's a lot of competition and a lot of good-looking cats out there. That's one thing that's noticeable is they look – I know it's like every spring you say this, but I think now it's not just seeing them get better physically like they did last year when you saw a huge jump under Vic Valoria. Now it's the actual guys that are bringing in are already built pretty well, and now
grown men.
They're getting some grown men. That's what I'm noticing.
We will have a segment here after our conversation with Brian Davis of the Austin American-Statesman, but I did speak with a very highly thought of NFL type draft guy, and I'm going to have updates on his thoughts as of today with Petrie, Abram Smith, Kalen Barnes, Terrell Bernard, Treston Ebner, Xavier Newman-Johnson, and also with Tyquan Thornton. A few nuggets, so to speak, and even a couple of notes about the Cowboys. Brian Davis covers Texas, Austin American-Statesman, joined us many different times on this show. And Brian, again, thanks for your time with Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, and David Smoak. So, sometimes whatever is reported when it comes to the University of Texas football team can get blown out of proportion or completely whatever. So what actually about Moro Ojomo? Was this a good thing that this kind of came out and they've got to be able to get to it and move on from it?
Well, first off, thanks for having me on, guys. I love being on here. You rattled off all those Baylor players that are going to, be in NFL draft types, and I'm like, that conversation won't be so long with Texas players, that's for sure. Hey now, look out. Listen, here's what happened in a nutshell. All right, last Thursday, we get to talk with Ojomo, a kid from Katy, one of the most highly intelligent football players that has ever come down the pipe. In my opinion, an extremely smart guy, and an extremely good talker, and not somebody who talks to hear himself talk, or he's trying to be showy for reporters. He's never like that, never. And so, at the beginning of the spring football, Sarkisian was asked, do you have more guys buying in this season to your culture than last year? And he says, well, I think we do, but you should go ask the players. Okay, so we will. Moro, what do you think about this team's culture? And he says, well, I think we've got some 18 to 21-year-olds who are more interested in chasing women, chasing money, and chasing alcohol than they are of winning, right? And the thing about it is, this was talked about last Thursday. When I heard it last Thursday, I thought, well, that's really interesting. But I'm like, I'll just save that for my spring wrap-up. I didn't think this was something I needed to run to my keyboard and pound out, right? But when Sarkisian was asked about it today, I mean, he kind of takes the guy to the woodshed and basically says, we shouldn't. He should not have said that. Thought it was handled poorly. I thought the forum was poor. You keep matters in house. You need to, kind of mow your own lawn before you talk about someone else's lawn, so to speak. And it's now kind of a big thing, especially for Sark to say, you guys won't be talking to him for a while, right? So it's rare that a coach would say, go talk to the players. Okay, well, we did, and he didn't like the answer. Is really what it is. And so, to me, on the Richter scale of Texas sports stories, this is about a 2 or 3, in terms of just a 1-day, 24-hour dust-up. I mean, when you compare this to Monkeygate and coaches on buses, banging the buses, and everything else that's going on here in the last, 365 days, this is pretty low-level stuff.
But the coach on the bus did coach this guy's position. So has he maybe filled up some of that propaganda that he's getting in the position room? Maybe.
Okay, all right. Okay, but here's my thing though. Propaganda. See, that gets me triggered as a laugh. But here's the thing about that. Both Bo Davis on the bus, Moro Ojimo, Keandre Coburn, all these guys. I mean, they're simply tired of losing. They're just tired of the mediocrity. And, I think that's what is so frustrating to everyone here is that, how many 5-stars and 4-stars does it take to be competitive with Baylor? How many 5-stars do they need to beat TCU? How many 5-stars do they need to beat Iowa State? I don't know. But these are the questions. How many 5-stars does it take to beat Kansas? I mean, that's the question that Texas is asking itself. Because they're so tired of mediocrity. I think about this, guys. This will really put it in perspective for you. The class of 2023, okay? Some of the recruits of the class of 2023. I mean, now, maybe not all of them, but definitely some of them. Some of these recruits were not even alive when Vince Young scored on 4th and 5. Okay? Some of them weren't even alive when Texas had its high water moment of this century, right? I mean, that's literally how long it has been since this school has achieved greatness. And, and I think that's where the frustration of everything it bubbles up from. I mean, over the last, ever since the 5th play of the Alabama game in 2009 when Colt McCoy's shoulder was knocked out of whack, what's happened? They had one big night in New Orleans when Georgia decided not to show up, right? That's really it, Since along the way, we've had Mac Brown throwing the coaching staff under the bus against Iowa State. They've had Charlie. Charlie's team couldn't even get the coin flip right against UCLA. They've had up and down moments against Oklahoma. What else jumps to mind? A loss to Kansas at Kansas got Charlie Strong fired. Another loss last year to Sark, a game they could have very easily won, but Sark, made the quarterback decision late. Hudson Card, 2 turnovers. That's fueled that. I mean, it's just on and on and on it goes. And until somebody, enough people step up and say enough with this, it's just going to keep going.
So in that way, Brian, even if it was the wrong form or whatever, do you think this will be productive, this getting out and maybe having a spotlight shined on it, or do you think it's actually something that could backfire on Sarkisian?
I think it's very delicate. I think it could go either way. I mean, it's funny. We normally interview players on Thursdays, and all I know is that if I'm inside Moncrief right now, my advice to the coach would be, well, you need to make some players available on Thursday, because if you don't, then it's going to really look like, you really are panicked. That's the only way to make this, if you don't like this story, you got to change the story. And to do that, you roll some more players out there, and you just, and of course, a lot of people are going to coach those players up not to say anything about it, because that's just kind of what they do now. But, you just move it aside and put on. But the fact remains that Moro Ojimo has shined a light on the fact that a veteran leader on this team still thinks that there are maybe too many players for his liking that are not fully invested in winning, right? And to me, that's the goal. Sark has to find those people and either weed them out or get them to get on board.
When he said something about maybe you should also make sure you've mowed your own yard, or you've taken care of your own backyard, or whatever, your own business, was he talking about Ojimo? Or was he just talking about everybody?
Well, I definitely interpreted that as Ojimo, for sure. I mean, that could very easily be interpreted as, your own position grouping, for sure. But at the same time, just a few minutes prior, he said that Saturday spring scrimmage was the defensive line played really well and they had trouble running the ball. So, it sounds to me like they were doing it. I mean, that's the thing about stats. You'd love it if Morrow was a guy who was like an all-world, type of player. Statistically speaking, he's not, right? But he does have, 5 years under his belt and 25 starts or whatever. And defensive tackles are hard to pile up a bunch of stats. But he is a key contributor. There's no question about it. And when he talks, people listen in the locker room. There's no doubt.
So outside of all that, how's everything else going there, Brian? I mean, they've got a quarterback battle. They got Quinn Ewers, who's apparently already worth like $80 million, if you believe the internet, and all these things going on. So how is that stuff actually going on the field?
Well, okay. Well, first off, it's $100 million. Don't fool them, okay? Don't show them anything. The reports that I've gotten from my super secret spies who have watched practice, it's about what you'd expect. Some days he looks great. Some days he looks like a freshman. And again, all of this is against air, right? My whole thing is this. You can be a 5-star, all-world everything. Okay, that's all great. But what happens in week 2 when an Alabama defense is coming at you with a 300-pounder who was a 5-star player as well, right? I mean, what happens then? Because we saw what happened last year, right? I thought Smoak would pick Casey Thompson to start the year. He didn't. He picked Hudson Card, and they went to Arkansas, and the guy froze. He simply was not ready for that environment and that defense. And so, I don't know. I mean, I'm a big believer in the sort of if you got the number 1 draft pick, if you draft the number 1 guy, you put him in the lineup and go, right? I don't know if this is that same equivalent, but I find it very, very difficult to believe that Quinn Ewers transferred here from Ohio State thinking he was going to be in a quarterback battle and ride the bench.
Right. Yeah.
With a guy that had lost his job.
Correct. Against a guy who had lost his job.
Yeah.
So the NIL stuff was talked about to death with Ewers, and I think at this point everybody's pretty on board with the whole thing. It's just, maybe some rules in place that were a little bit, clear or whatever. But, I go back to Jomo's comments and talking about guys just want to make money and kiss girls and drink and all that stuff. How do you think the whole NIL aspect of college football has had an impact on Texas? And is that a concern? Because they're one of the big spenders that – yeah, you do want the stars, but you also, might, because you're just paying money to bring them in, be bringing in guys who are exactly who Moro Ojomo's talking about.
Well, I really do think that NIL is a double-edged sword. I personally think it's great that these players are finally getting paid their worth and their value for name, image, and likeness. I think that's awesome, right? But at the same time, you cannot dismiss the fact that only a small amount of the locker room is going to make big money while everybody else makes either, peanut shells or nothing, right? This isn't pro football. And, pro football, people understand that, the quarterback and the left tackle and the rush in make all the money. They get that, right? But in college football, I don't know. It's just hard for me to see. I only want to speak about Texas here for a second, but people can understand that Bijan Robinson would have a bunch of NIL deals.
Yeah.
Right. That's totally understandable. But for Quinn Ewers to have maybe even more money in NIL and all that, I mean, that gets a big question mark over my head. It's like, what's this guy done to earn all that? Right now, the answer is nothing, And so that to me is where the market seems like it needs to kind of figure itself out, because guys are clearly getting paid off of potential when they really haven't done anything yet.
I wish we could all get paid off potential.
I want to be paid off potential.
I have so much untapped potential.
We just have, Brian. We have Mac Rhodes almost every Tuesday, and he mentioned that as well. He's not against all of what's going on. It's just that, that he's a little bit concerned, as most ADs would be, or even coaches would be. It sounds great if you're a fan or a booster or a T-shirt fan or an alum of a school that they're getting some of these guys in because of it. But there's also there's some landmines here. And
well, these things too, Smoak. I mean, what happens when some boosters pay for a guy and it just doesn't work out, right? Like the guy gets hurt, or the guy just wasn't as good as everybody hoped, or whatnot. And then a couple years down the road, the coach who is sort of banking on these boosters to foot the bill, all of a sudden they turn off the financial spigot, and now the coach X can't get those recruits, and now he's up the creek, right? I mean, it seems to me that there's just a lot of, as this thing goes on, as we go on this thing year by year, people are going to get smarter, and the market is going to be more established in terms of value and what people will and won't pay for. And I'm just telling you, if I'm a coach, man, I hope your program is good, because if it's bad, I think you're going to struggle with NIL.
Brian, you want?
Yeah, I did want to ask. I mean, obviously, Brian, we'll have you on closer to the season and whatnot. But have you felt any sort of buzz with the influx of the transfers they brought in? And in particular, a guy I watched a lot of who I saw Texas get, and I was like, dang, that's a good one, was Isaiah Nayor. Anything to report back on him?
No, he is definitely someone who has already Sark has definitely brought him up a couple of times for sure. He's probably somebody that's going to be opposite Xavier Worthy on the field. Look, it's no secret Texas needs more explosive plays, and he absolutely did that at Wyoming last year. So there's a lot of hope for him, and I really think that Isaiah, Xavier Worthy, and a healthy Jordan Whittington. I mean, I think that's a trio that any Big 12 team would take.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good threesome. They have a couple other guys that are dinged up. They'd really like to get Troy O'Meara going. He's been plagued the last 2 years with injuries and whatnot. But we'll see. To me, I mean, here's the problem though. They have all these great wideouts, but can they block the 300-pounder coming off the edge, and can the quarterback complete the pass to get to the thing here? So that's it.
Hey man. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying real quick before we go here, because I'm on with you guys. Guess what I got in the mail today? Yeah, you'll never guess what I got in the mail. I am looking at the wonderful, beautiful face of one Scott Drew. The road to joy has just landed on my inbox. Thank you, UPS man, with a wonderful note here from Scott Drew. I know that he signed this just for me. Not really, but very excited to read our man's new book here, because I'm sure it's really good.
You know what? That's awesome, and that probably is from him. I mean,
knowing him, actually, it probably is.
Brian, save it for a day like where you wake up in the morning and you're like, man,
I don't feel good today. I'm kind of blah.
It's gloomy, and then just read the first couple pages, and
you'll want to go run around Lake Austin or so, or whatever it is. LBJ.
There you go. That'd be great.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Hey, good stuff, man. Thank you as always, Brian. Appreciate the insight.
Appreciate it, guys.
Austin American statesman Brian Davis. A little bit about Ojimo and the comments we had in the opening segment.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard to, kind of wrap my head around having partial information, because we didn't know anything about Ojomo's comments last week, and then all of a sudden Sark talks today, and if you're not in Austin, I don't know why you would have been paying attention to it. And it wasn't even a big deal what he said last week until today.
There you go.
So, the comments were harmless until Sark commented on them, so that's his bag, quite frankly, unless, it's just he had to, but... I still don't think it's something that's, indicative necessarily of like a terrible culture or things like that. I'm expecting Texas to be pretty good this year, but it does make me wonder, and especially hearing some more while I was at practice, I was reading some more of the quotes and more of what he was getting into, more of what Ojomo said, where he was calling some guys out. But, I think it's going to be handled in-house and be fine, but it is something, if you don't handle it right, then it turns into what it turns into, and that's a tough lesson for Sark to learn, because now you got this drama for no real reason. that could have been handled and not been a media thing, but it's not a killer of the season by any means. It's something they'll get over and be fine. But I do wonder, it does make me wonder more about the NIL aspect of when you are, willing to pay an offensive lineman $50,000. And I go back to that one all the time, and I know there's others like it, but that's the one that was just so blatantly obvious. Like, that was the one that just sent, okay, NIL's off the rails now, in my opinion. And I know there were similar ones, but when you do have that going on, are you surprised if maybe the culture's not going to be to where everybody's coming in bootstraps ready to go and they're making $50,000 for being on the team? Like, of course there's guys probably thinking about how they're going to spend that money on 6th Street, and I know 6th Street's not even that popular, but you know what I'm saying.
Anywhere in Austin.
8th Street where it's at.
Yeah.
14th Street.
But you know what I mean? Like, I mean, of course that's going to be a distraction of some sort, or could potentially be. So I do wonder, it's one thing to throw that money out there, but that doesn't mean that once you cut that check that those guys are going to be totally focused on the job at hand and not distracted by things.
Mac Roach, Craig, when you were gone, said that there were a couple of players at Baylor that were in NIL deals that did not, I don't think he said underperformed, but probably did not meet expectations.
Yeah, and the thing that,
and they were on campus.
Yeah, that is upside down to me, and we've talked about this several times today, is in professional life, whatever your job is, but in professional sports, which is the model they're trying to compare it to, when you pay for something, you know exactly what you're getting. But I think a lot of these people willing to pay for NIL don't quite understand how sports works, in that, look, there's a jump. Like, you can be a great high school player and then be an average college football player or not at all.
Ever play
and then you're paying $50,000 a year for this guy who may never crack the starting lineup. When do you, like Brian said, when do you go, well, I'm not paying for this
What
anymore.
about the walk-on, or what about the guy that didn't get it? This is starting left guard.
I think about, imagine if Garrett Gilbert was around the NIL era. Imagine how much he would have commanded and how much. And then, Jarrett Stidham at Baylor, if he was in the NIL era, and could have just been, and then what did he turn into? Obviously that went sideways, so thankfully that wasn't around back then. But yeah, it's not an anti-NIL thing. I am curious to see if you do see with more big money being thrown around, and if there is a culture that's a little bit touchy, then maybe that does turn into something. But I saw somebody post, Sarkisian's the one that escalated this.
Ray Grange, who's been a part of athletics and all of that business. This wouldn't have been a story without Sarkisian escalating it.
And without it being Texas.
Brian Davis just basically said that, is that he didn't even use that in any way. He was going to be a part of a spring summary. And then, 100%. Go talk to the players, and they talk to the players. The player says something. Wait a minute, you're not allowed. He can't talk. But okay, we have to move on. John McClain, NFL Hall of Fame columnist, will join us next on Sikkim 365 Radio. And I hope, if I don't get to it today, on an NFL draft guy. More than just someone that throws stuff out, on many updates involving some of the Baylor players. Even Azuma, the wide receiver, Texas Tech, and what the Cowboys he thinks will do. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. The City of Woodway, discoverwoodway.com. On the website, man, they've got 2 or 3 events coming up in the month of May, which, oh, by the way, is next month. I remember promoting the mother-daughter brunch, sweet as can be, B-E-E. May 7th, and I'm like, man, that's a long way away. It's now less than a month away. May the 7th, mother-daughter brunch, 11 a.m. to 1:30, $30 per ticket. That's available. We'll be at the Pavilion, at the Arboretum. Also, you can even have daughters, granddaughters, whoever, enjoying delicious food, music, fun crafts, and more awesome surprises. Again, from 11 to 1:30 is the event. And then on top of that, coffee with the city manager, May the 17th, just to kind of discuss government or what's going on around the city of Woodway. And even coming up in August, father and son cookout. All of that available at discoverwoodway.com.
It's Ram Truck Month at Allen Samuels, where you can get a new 2022 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star with values up to $6,500, or get $3,000 bonus cash and 2.9% for 72 months. First responders get an extra $500. This year's incredible deals are at Allen Samuels in Waco. Take home power, performance, and reliability with your new 2022 Ram today.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with NFL Hall of Fame columnist John McClain. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
There is the street out in front of us with that continued construction, but it looks so much better than it did even 3 or 4 or a week ago, days or a week ago. We're now joined by Hall of Fame columnist John McClain with us every Tuesday in the 5 o'clock hour. John, thank you very much. Is Daniel Snyder, if they find any evidence, if in fact any evidence that he was trying to hide money from the other owners in the league, is he a dead man walking?
I would think he would be. I don't think when it comes to sexual assault and misconduct and all those things the Redskins have been accused of, Commanders, in recent years, that the other owners, they may give lip service to caring about it, but I don't think they do. But when you start getting into their bank account, even though they're multi-billionaires, that gets their attention. Just like if Stephen Ross, if those accusations by Brian Flores that he offered $100,000 to throw games with as much money, billions, that the NFL is going to get from gambling, and if the gamblers thought there was any suspicion at all about games, that would cost money. So it would be a long process. You can't just say, okay, let's do it. They're going to file suit. What they need Daniel Snyder to do like Jerry Richardson. Sell the franchise before the posse catches up to you. Snyder has done one of the worst jobs as an owner in the history of sports at any level. He took over one of the greatest franchises in sports history, and he's run it into the ground. You as a fan, David, you know what Washington has become. He's trying to get a new stadium back down by RFK Stadium where it was. And the only way that's happening is if he were to sell. And he could get billions, but he's already a billionaire. I think they would love to wash their hands of Dan Snyder because this isn't going to get any better. It's only going to get worse.
So what are the realistic chances of that happening?
Well, nobody knows. This guy making accusations who worked there for 25 years, does he have proof? Just like, does Brian Flores have proof? Does he have emails, text messages, direct messages, recorded phone calls? Because if you have that, then they're in trouble. Otherwise, it's just that he said. And I would imagine before this guy went public, before the governmental committees, that he would have proof, because he knew Dan Snyder and the NFL have the most expensive attorneys in the country to come after him and his allegations. And I think it would be great for the NFL to wash its hands of Snyder, because he has been a pimple on the NFL side of the NFL's face for years.
John, I just so happen to grow up in a Washington family. I hate the guy. I mean, not personally, but he makes me not want to be a fan of the franchise, and I can't imagine I'm the only person that feels that way. But he sticks around. We'll see if this will do it or not. But in terms of the Texans and the draft, I mean, here we are, less than a couple of weeks away now at this point. Do you get any kind of sense of, just the vision of Lovie Smith and having this opportunity to add some players to this roster?
Texans have the 3rd and 13th picks in the first round. They have 5 of the top 80. Then they have 2 fourth-round picks. Then they got a bunch more next year. This is phase 2 of the rebuild. They can't really go long because they have so many needs. I wouldn't be surprised if General Manager Nick Caserio doesn't trade down the 3rd pick. Like, say, Carolina fell in love with Malik Willis and was worried that the Saints might trade up or the Falcons might trade up. Then I could see him trading down to 6, still being able to get an impact player at a need position. And if they stay at number 3, most people here think they would take one of the offensive linemen, offensive tackle Evan Neal or offensive tackle guard Ike Ekwonu with that pick, or a pass rusher. Now, Kayvon Thibodeau of Oregon is penciled in by a lot of mock drafts. And I say this every week on every one of my shows. If you're picking 3rd, you can't have questions about that player's motor. You just can't. You need a guy that spot who's going to go hard all the time. And there's too many former NFL general managers and personnel directors out there working with scouting services or in the media who've watched tapes, and they say he is enormously gifted, but he doesn't play hard on every play. Now, Trayvon Walker from Georgia, his stock is rising. Aiden Hutchinson, of course, is the top-rated player. What the Texans would love is to see maybe the Jaguars take one of those offensive linemen like Evan Neal, who could protect Trevor Lawrence for 10 or 15 years, and then have the 2nd pick, Detroit, then fall in love with Malik Willis, which would give the Texans Aiden Hutchinson. They do need a pass rusher on the right side. They have their other 3 starters in place, and they do need interior offensive linemen who specialize in run blocking. And I think in the 2nd round, they got to have a running back. Breece Hall's the one I want. You guys have watched him a lot. I've watched him a lot. Watched him against Baylor. If not Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker from Michigan State. Those are the top backs. Most of the backs in the NFL right now all came in the 2nd round.
John, what do you make of this conspiracy theory that Tom Brady really wanted to go to the Dolphins, and then the lawsuit and Bruce Arians upended that whole thing?
There's so much stuff out there, Paul, about things like that. nobody's got any proof. I had a thing run by me on one of my shows today that because Bill Belichick did not want Brady to go to Miami to play him twice a year in the division, he purposely sent that text to Brian Daboll, knowing Daboll would turn him in and file a suit. Now, I think that's far-fetched. Even Belichick's not that smart. But the guy that ran that by me, I said, so you believe in the grassy knoll as well. But it's certainly interesting to talk about. And that's one of the good or bad things, depending on your point of view of social media.
John, how is retirement?
Well, I've only retired from writing for the Chronicle. I'm actually doing some freelance for the Chronicle on draft weekend since they haven't had time to replace me. And you guys are my 7th talk show today. Started this morning with Damon Amendolara on CBS. I've got 5 things tomorrow. Sunday, the Rockets honored me after the mayor honored me the week before. And I've got the Texans doing something. It's a secret. I really wish the Astros would invite me to cut the first pitch, but I'm fading into the distance because the Rockets, before every game, have a first shot for charity. It's a free throw. They asked me if I'd do it. I said, sure. I assumed it'd be like 30 minutes, maybe 30 minutes before tip-off. So I get there, and the guy who was assigned to me for game day said, well, let me take you out on the court, walk you through everything that's going to happen. I said, okay, go out there. And it's about 30 minutes before the game. Players are warming up, and they leave the court to go into the locker room before it being introduced. So I'm shooting practice free throws, and I had gotten a basketball for $51 because mine is flat, and I've got a goal in the driveway. And I shot so many free throws last week, my arm's about to fall off. So my goal was not to shoot an air ball. They told me Vince Young, air ball, Carl Lewis, air ball. And I just wanted to hit the rim if I wasn't going to make it and get $5,000 for charity. So I go out there. They're walking me through everything. Okay, here's the cameras are going to be in your face. Clutch, the mascot's going to hand you the ball. We want you to sign the ball, give it back, and then take the ball and shoot the free throw. So it was after the player introductions, after the national anthem. It was the last thing before the tip-off. And I'm walking out there, and the players of both teams are watching me. People in the stands are watching me. The media, all my media friends are standing underneath the goal, shooting at the TV, tweeting. I hit the rim. And I gave myself an F-, but at least I hit the rim. And people couldn't have been nicer. Then they whisked me over to do an interview on AT&T Sports where the game was being doing. And I got to sit next to Tillman Fertitta, my owner, and his son Patrick, who runs the team for him, and I sat next to them. And then midway through the third quarter, they come over carrying 2 footballs. I stand up, I sign them. All the in-house cameras are right in my face, and I look up, and they're doing a tribute to me on the big screen. And I'm like, wow, I signed the balls, Clutch, the mascot, throws them into the stands, and I'm looking up, and I'm going, boy, those pictures are from so long ago. Nobody's going to recognize me. They're going to say, who's that up there with Bum Phillips? Who's that up there with Jerry Glanville? Because that's like 140 pounds ago.
John, I hate to bring the boom back down after a laugh, but I do want to ask you before we go, Dwayne Haskins and the tragedy that took place last weekend. Any thoughts just on obviously what was just a terrible, unforeseen tragedy?
Well, Craig, that's it. It was a tragedy. And there's mysterious circumstances surrounding it. The police are investigating. People want to know the details. I feel bad for his wife. I don't think they've been married very long. His family, his friends, fans. He was down there working out with the Steelers. But we all want to know, what was he doing walking on 6:30 in the morning trying to cross a major interstate? And I've been by there numerous times going to the Fort Lauderdale airport, and it is like a racetrack, and he was trying to cross it. So I hope that they'll be able to get details for his family because, man, it just shows how fleeting life can be. And I just feel sorry for everybody.
Yeah.
Well
John,
said. Yep.
Yeah, well said. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate your time. Enjoy.
Thank you, guys. And second.
Yes, sir. Thank you. That's John McClain with us Tuesdays around 5:30. Paul's Top 5 coming up next. If you haven't been on Blake Blackmar's Twitter feed recently, he puts up unbelievable pieces of food that he's cooked or whatever. He did something the other day with just a bunch of stuff that was in a refrigerator for breakfast, a bacon roll that is stupid good looking, but it's probably not something you need to make or eat. It's that good. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, a hidden gem. They're always doing cool things there, whether it was, bringing in the cool Balcones barrels that they did, the different things that Balcones did just for them. Happy Dad Seltzer. They're always getting stuff in from all over the country. So you're not just going to walk in and see your kind of basic, these are the 5 whiskeys and these are the 5 gins and these are the 8 beers and this is what they have. They always have different things there at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. So if you're, a fan of bourbon and you want to try something different, they have just a wide array of great bourbons, or it's gin, or it's vodka, or it's craft beer. Variety is the name of the game there, and they always churn the roster at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. A speedy drive-through window, great customer service. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from select, choice, or prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com. Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. I've seen people walk in there. First of all, you have so much to show. Necklaces, bracelets, rings. You have the watches. You have numerous great watches as well. You really have pretty much everything, don't you, when it comes to jewelry?
That's correct. Kind of a one-stop shop and all. And the fact that we have the 2 jewelers on staff, the repairs we can do, the fixing of your jewelry, and the remaking of any jewelry has really set us apart from anybody else.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55, presented by Champion Salon and Barber. To book your appointment, go to championsalonandbarber.com.
Top 5 SEC West spring football questions. We'll go through these. I wound up writing, here's how it came out to SEC West. Just a little confession here. I was writing 5 SEC questions, and I didn't have any SEC East teams, so I thought, I better break this up.
That's where the national champion resides.
Yeah, exactly. So
That's the Rattlers at South Carolina.
Yeah.
There you go.
We'll get to that one tomorrow. But today is SEC West questions. SEC West questions. Number 5, is Arkansas poised for a jump? We saw them play really well last year, defeating Texas A&M for the first time in a long time, beating people they have not played beaten in a long time. But look, Traylon Burks was a big reason for that. He's in the NFL, on his way to the NFL now. Can they sustain that at Arkansas? I think it's going to be interesting to see that. Look, if this was a question about the basketball team, you say yes, they're about to blow up there. Back-to-back Elite Eights at Arkansas. Eric Musselman's raiding the transfer portal.
Got a huge class incoming. Yeah.
But for football, let's see what Sam Pittman can do. And just for the interest of some parity in that league, I'd be interested to see the Hogs go wild.
Yeah, it would be nice. I mean, I think they're going to be steady and very good, but it's just a matter of the division they're in. It's just like you can be really good and still lose 3 or 4 games, so it's kind of hard to judge their progress, generally versus, what we would typically do is like it's just the record, but the record might not really be indicative of it. But you got, KJ Jefferson's back. You got a boatload of transfers like Drew Sanders from Bama and Jaden Hasselwood from Oklahoma, among many others. Kendall and them are doing a good job there. I think Sam Pittman's a good coach. I think they've showed some strides and some progress. And again, it's just a matter of being hesitant to go all in because of just who they're going to have to run into along the way. But if they upset the apple cart a little bit, would not be surprising at all. I think they're headed in the right direction.
Yeah. Number 4, can Ole Miss improve on last season? Look, Jackson Dart is there now, and I would think that would be kind of a match made in heaven for him with a quarterback coach like Lane Kiffin, who's really good. And we can say all the things we want about Lane Kiffin and his bravado. He has a lot of bravado. He's a unique, different, egotistical guy. But he is a very good football coach, and he's a very good offensive football coach. And I'm curious to see if he can do this a second year. That was a really good team that lost to Baylor in the Sugar Bowl last year. Can he improve? The next step for them after, losing in the Sugar Bowl would be either going back and winning the Sugar Bowl or contending for the conference title, which I'm not quite sure they'll do, but can they get back and can they improve?
Yeah, they were really good. That was a hell of a Sugar Bowl. Baylor just had a little bit more, had the big play with Walcott, and obviously they just kind of were a little bit better.
And obviously knocked Matt Corral out of the game.
Knocked Corral out of the game, and they put pressure on everybody that was taking a snap, the quarterbacks. But that was a nice step. That wasn't one of those like 8-4, 8-5. That was a really nice step what they had. And you're right. Sometimes the schedule with who you play opposite your division can help you with that, but they seem to be pretty damn real.
I mean, they've hit the portal hard. That's why, he's called himself the portal king and whatnot. I mean, he's really going all in on recruiting. Did y'all see that prom picture he took the other day?
You're talking about the one with all the guys around him at the swimming pool,
all
right?
those guys. Yeah, no.
And their dates?
No, it's a Southern Belle competition or something. But, no, that was kind of fun. And, I don't know. Can Jackson Dart be better than Matt Corral or Luke Altmaier for that matter? You'd probably defer to Dart, but they're competing right now. And we get to see, obviously, a lot of Altmaier in that game. But, yeah, I mean, they like I said, they've hit the portal hard. They're going to have a ton of talent. He's a great coach. And Ole Miss, I could see them. There's not a lot of room, like you said. But, yeah, I could see them getting to a Sugar Bowl and winning a Sugar Bowl and feeling like they took a step forward.
Yeah. Number 3, what does Brian Kelly's LSU depth chart look like?
Hopefully better than the basketball depth chart.
Yeah, well, they're all gone. And so, who's the quarterback? I mean, you would think it's going to be Jaden Daniels, right? But is it? He didn't come there, but like Garrett Nussmeier's a 5-star recruit a couple years ago. Is it his time? What is going on there? And then, just go through position by position. They shuffled the roster. They brought in a bunch of transfers. They've done a lot of interesting things there. Brian Kelly, again, he's kind of in a different category to me than Lane Kiffin, but he's, for better or worse, he's a really good football coach, and you can say personality-wise about the guy whatever you feel, but he's a really good coach. And what does he have in that roster? What is that roster like for them to do what that fan base expects them to do, which is play in the conference championship game?
One thing that there's someone who does hit us a lot on the text. He's a Notre Dame fan. You wonder if Brian Kelly, which they were good at times, really good on the cusp of being, in the playoff, was that his limit there? The limit at LSU, even with Notre Dame's history, is higher.
Well,
correct.
And
their ceiling.
His comments last week were basically
20 years, yeah.
His comments were basically last week that Notre Dame has some restrictions that you just can't get by. And that he couldn't get by. No. Somebody can probably get by it, but
no, there's something to that though.
Yeah,
I mean, they do have real rules, especially in comparison to LSU.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
but he says that that they can't get by. I think that somebody will eventually figure it out. But again, he was kind of done with that and moved on to LSU, and both parties seem to be extremely happy.
You know who visited Notre Dame practice?
Yeah, Ed O.
He's been around others. It's not just that one.
He's been around. He wanted Marcus Freeman for his defensive coordinator before he got fired. So there's a connection there. He's obviously a Marcus Freeman fan. So I don't think that's really a shot at Brian Kelly if those people are trying to look into it that way. I think it's more a compliment to Marcus Freeman and what he's doing.
I agree.
But I mean, the quarterback situation will be interesting with the group of guys they have. I mean, pretty much anybody who follows recruiting knows all these guys at this point. But, all of them haven't necessarily lived up to what they were expected to live up to. So, I mean, the opportunity's there. I don't know about the rest of the depth chart, how that shakes out, but it's LSU, the hellified athletes. They'll probably, hit the transfer portal, and Brian Kelly's a great coach. Like, I don't expect him to be LSU, with Joe Burrow at the helm anytime soon, but sooner rather than later, I don't think he's going to go there and fail.
Yeah, by the way, on Coach O at LSU, I just thought he was looking for a place where he could go to confession based on the last couple of months there.
Yeah. Right before the touchdown.
Bless me, Father, for I have seen I've been hitting on pregnant ladies at gas stations. Number 2. Who's the QB at Texas A&M? Max Johnson, Haynes King, or the freshman Connor Weigman Weigman. I think it's Weigman. Weigman has been playing really well. So who's the quarterback there with a roster around them that even with the losses they have in the NFL draft is really good with veterans and is going to be really good with young recruits? They've got some depth at A&M that they haven't had in a long time. This is probably not the year where I expect them to take the step, but who the quarterback is and how effective they can be.
What do you mean take the step?
Real actually contend for the conference title.
Right.
I mean, and not just be 8-4, 9-3. I mean, 8-4 should be just tattooed on their backs until then. But can they take the step? Who the quarterback's going to be is going to be huge in that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to default and predict it's Haynes King when all is said and done. I mean, he was the guy before the injury last year. A&M's knocking on the door so much that I don't even hear it anymore. So they need to start to take that step that you're referring to. I mean, they're in good hands. They've got a good coach. They've got great recruiting, obviously great fan base and all that jazz. But yeah, I mean, we've been hearing them knock for a while. So, they've beaten Alabama, proven they can do that. They've proven they can beat just about anybody. It's just a matter of beating them all in the same calendar year. That's the problem. And only Alabama and Georgia have really been able to navigate that all that well here as of late. So, to this question, though, I think it's going to be Haynes King.
Yeah, I mean, he won it last year and before he got hurt. So unless... but Max Johnson's played a lot more, so there's all these things. And Jimbo's a bit of a mad scientist when it comes to the quarterback. And number 1, can anyone challenge Bama? I mean, that's what it all comes down to in the SEC West. Of all these things that you've done to make yourself better, can you beat these guys? Because they're not taking a step back. Their quarterback's back. They got who they want in the transfer portal. Look, Kamar Wheaton went to SMU. They're not going to miss him. Nick Saban will forget his name by tomorrow. Won't even be a thing in his head. And that's just how Bama rolls on. So can you dethrone Bama? That's the question nobody has an answer for yet.
I agree. Until proven otherwise, just like in the Big 12 for most every year, it was Oklahoma. But in their case, it's winning the division, winning the conference a lot, and winning national titles. And, of course, Georgia said, hey, don't forget about us, and they won it a year ago. All right, tomorrow we'll have UT San Antonio's UTSA's Jeff Traylor. We'll have Texas State's Jake Spavital, and maybe one other Division I coach or FBS coach. We'll let you know more about that as, of course, we find out in the morning. For Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, thanks, Jack. Amazing by himself, the solo, flying solo. We appreciate him. Thanks to our incredible sponsors. A lot of you new today on the chat. Some of you back today who've been there before. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Good night. Sick on 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.